What's up guys, Chaos Shinobi here. This is What If Neglected Naruto Has Eternal Rinnegan. Summary: Naruto is neglected by his parents for his Jinchuriki sister and Sasuke for Itachi. Naruto and Sasuke are given a legacy of Ashura and Indra by the Sage of the Six Paths and they take the world by storm. Chapter 8. Haku stepped into one of the mirrors and his reflection was seen in each of the mirrors. Your end is near. Crystal clear and extremely sharp senbon appeared in Haku's hands. All of the Hekus. Know this, I do not want to hurt you. But it is my job as a ninja, as a killer, to take your life, to complete my mission. And right now, my mission is to protect Zabuza-sama and you are standing in my way, and with that, he threw the senbon. These children are strong, I cannot afford to hold back. Every reflection seemed to be able to throw those senbon along with him. All of them real, not mere mirages. And if you would ask our duo, they hurt like hell. Damn, they were in a world of pain. Senbons were flying in from every possible direction. Hence, all the speed that they used to overwhelm Haku, didn't account for shit right now. Only the kunai that Naruto had and the chokudo that Sasuke had just unsealed were the only defense that the boys had. Sasuke, Naruto shouted. On it Sasuke replied. As he chanted Mugen Yami. The surroundings inside the dome instantly changed to pure blackness, something he picked up from Shisui. Though Haku could throw needles from seemingly everywhere, keyword being seemingly, his needles needed a general direction to go. And not each mirror was able to throw those, due to the fact that those needles needed a constant supply of humidity to able to keep their structure, and Zabuza wasn't here with his Karigakure no Jutsu right now. What do we do now? Naruto asked from inside the dome of darkness. Just as the words left his mouth, a hail of senbon hit him. Or rather the place where he was supposed to be. Sasuke had pulled him aside just in time. Sasuke spoke in a hushed tone. He can still hear us. Naruto and in response. He uses the Hyoton, ice release. Not a weak style. We need to get out of this dome or else we are done for. Sasuke summed up the situation. Yup. And from the kunais I threw while trying to break those, it failed miserably. Not even a scratch. I guess we need something powerful for that, Naruto suggested. And Sasuke knew what he was talking about. They both smirked and suddenly the dark dome faded. The darkness faded to reveal the duo standing, facing right into the mirror in which Haku actually was. The said person got chills up his spine when he saw them both. The blonde with multiple highly compressed spheres of pure wind chakra hovering over his hands, and the raven head with puffed cheeks and a small spark from between his lips. And then they both let loose their respective attacks. Wind style, vacuum spheres. Fire style, Phoenix Flower. The balls of fire and wind attacked the mirror together and blew it apart. Though Haku was able to escape that blast by ejecting himself from that mirror, he wasn't fast enough in doing so and now hoisted severe burns all over his body. The rest of the dome shattered due to the sheer strength of that attack. When the smoke and mist lifted, Naruto and Sasuke walked out. So, you plan on giving up yet? Naruto asked the slightly shifting Haku. Why you? Both. You're quite formidable opponents. I would have loved to have friends as strong and as close as you. But. Now his voice became stern. Zabuza-sama needs me right now, and you will not stop me. And with that battle cry, he charged. Sasuke easily sidestepped his assault and Naruto restrained him with simple earth manipulation. It was then that they saw, a piece of ice was sticking out of Haku's back, just beside the spine. Hey! Are you crazy? Why were you trying to move in your condition? Does this man truly means this much to you? Tell me? Naruto asked. Quick Naruto, there is no time. We have to get him to Sensei right away if we want to save his life, Sasuke shouted. Naruto nodded his head and they both picked Haku up by draping his arms over their shoulders and took off. Whilst jumping through the trees, Haku spoke to them. You want to know why he is so important to me? I'll explain it. I was born in a small, snowy village in the land of water, a land that had suffered from war not long before. Though keeping their pace, Sasuke and Naruto kept their ears open to the story. Haku continued in this war. Different sides battled each other using ninja, some of whom possessed Kekkei Genkai. After the war ended, memories of the horrific battles still lingered in the minds of the people. Those with Kekkei Genkai quickly became feared and hated for their abilities, out of concern that their existence would only bring about more war. This was understandable. If one would face such extremities due to a single kind of people, they would develop a kind of hatred and fear for them. My father and mother were simple farmers, and we lived a peaceful life. They loved each other, and were caring for me. Unfortunately, this all changed. Now Haku's face took on a serious expression. My mother was a wielder of a Kekkei Genkai, ice release. She hid this fact from my father, hoping that the love and peace that was shared in our small family would last forever. But. Haku suddenly shivered. weakness spreading throughout his body. But he continued, "But one day, I discovered the ability to manipulate water. Amazed by this, I proudly showed this to my mother, who was horrified by what she saw. She harshly scolded and slapped me for displaying this ability, though she tearfully apologized to me immediately afterwards. It's all a little foggy. I can't remember the exact details, but somehow father had seen everything from the shadows. When he discovered that his wife and child possessed a Kekkei Genkai, he assembled a small mob of villagers. Now Haku began to sob. With tears flowing down his eyes, he killed my mom. He then attempted to kill me too. But before he could, I used my ice release to create several large ice spikes which accidentally killed father and the rest of the mob. I did not mean for them to die. I just was so angry and hurt. The spikes seemed to understand me, and they went ahead and did their job. And then my father was dead." Haku's voice seemed to get more tired with every moment. Upon seeing this, Naruto asked him to stop. "Please, that's enough. Conserve your strength. You're injured. We need to get there faster." But Haku wasn't one to stop. He felt this uncontrollable desire to speak to them, to tell them of his story. And so he did. Orphan. That was all that the incident left me to become. I became a child who was wanted by no one and was forced to take to the cold streets and rummage through trash bins for scraps of food, even sometimes having to fight off the wild dogs that roamed the streets. Naruto noticed the somber look in his eyes. It was the look of hurt, of someone who knows what it's like to be truly in pain. This is where Zabuza-sama comes in. I was confronted by Zabuza-sama, a man who had the same eyes as me. He later asked me to become his weapon, which meant to become a dedicated shinobi for him. And I couldn't find a limit to my happiness. I was wanted, again. Someone accepted me. And they needed me again. And I wasn't going to let this opportunity leave me. So I readily accepted this role. Haku explained, with a slight, hopeful smile towards the end. He didn't just took me in, he trained me. And I accepted it all due to the purpose it gave me, and I devoted my life to becoming the ultimate tool for Zabuza-sama to use. He trained me in the ways of the shinobi, as well as every fighting technique that he knew. He, in many ways, was like the father that I always wanted. Haku suddenly seemed to grow more heavier with each leap. And it was quickly becoming hard for the duo to carry him. This concerned them, since Haku had not listened to any of their attempts to asking him to stop. He just continued, as he did now. "So, it doesn't matter how much the world hates me, or how much you hate me, if Zabuza-sama wants my help, I will. No matter how big a crime he commits." And with that, he slumped on their shoulders. "Shit. Naruto. We have to put him down right now," Sasuke shouted. They jumped to the ground, and laid him on the ground. Naruto quickly placed his fingers on Haku's neck. There was still a pulse, albeit a weak one. Sasuke inquired about his condition. "Is he alive?" Although not the best way to ask, but the intention was clean. "Yup, he is alive. Just unconscious," Naruto answered. "Although we need to hurry up, Sensei might need our help." "What do we do with him?" Sasuke asked. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto made two clone that lifted Haku and began to move towards the direction of the other battle. "Remember what we were taught? Show compassion for the enemy, but not at the cost of one of your own," Naruto reminded Sasuke. The said Ravenhead had been too quiet throughout the story. "Yes. You are right. Let's not waste any more time," Sasuke said with determination and goals set in his eyes. And with that, they leapt off, using sunshine to get there as soon as possible. They reached there not before long. But the sight that greeted them was just not good. Kakashi looked battered and worn. Zabuza was in a similar condition. But the one which sought most of their attention was Shisui. They both exclaimed at once. The said person was trapped in a ball of water, and was looking almost out of breath. Only chakra coating his lungs sustained him for this long. What happened while we were gone?" Sasuke blurted out. "Oh, good to see you both back so soon. As you can see, we are in a tight spot right now and we need your help." Kakashi answered him with an intended cool statement, but his condition betrayed him. "But you two are like both A rank each. How did you get into this condition?" This time Naruto asked. Just as the last word escaped his mouth, a barrage of kunais and shurikens were shot out of a bush nearby and a tree beside it. "You know you don't have the luxury to talk." Zabuza's cold and almost demonic voice came from the other side of the fog. Kakashi's only response to his students was because the bastard was prepared. Flashback. "Let's just end it before it starts, Zabuza. We all know that you cannot win against the two of us." Shisui spoke with the traditional Uchiha superiority complex voice. "Careful, we shouldn't underestimate him. He is one of the most dangerous criminals in the world," Kakashi advised. Though his voice betrayed his words of caution. "You should listen to him, kid. Kakashi is more experienced than you. Zabuza spoke, his voice dripping with excitement. Interesting, so he called me a kid. That means he knows little to nothing of my abilities. This should prove beneficial. Shisui thought. Kakashi on the other hand was having similar thoughts. They both nodded at each other and leapt, intent on finishing this fast. Zabuza smirked and moved his index finger. And suddenly, an entire barrage of shurikens hit the duo. But, they both turned into logs. Zabuza grimaced. They used substitution. Now I have lost the element of surprise. Kakashi and Shisui landed some distance away from Zabuza. Well, look here. Didn't expect the demon of the hidden mist to use something as lowly as an ambush. Did we, Kakashi? Shisui mocked. Kakashi merely made a no gesture. Yes, neither did I, but when facing up against someone stronger, one has to do all that he can. Besides, Zabuza spoke with a quiet tone at the end and made a hand sign to conjure up the mist that he had been gathering around the area. There's no fun in killing, unless I can taste your fear. Now the entire area was covered in smoke, the surroundings were completely white. And in that moment of confusion, Zabuza used the chakra-covered mist to surround Shisui and trap him in a water style. Water prison, Zabuza shouted, and suddenly Shisui was trapped in a water prison. He then swung his executioner's blade at Kakashi, who was forced to dodge by jumping back. Did you think I didn't know about your abilities, Shisui of the Sunshine? Zabuza spoke with a demonic face and let out a chuckle. Hey. Did you honestly think that I would fight both of you together? Ha. I know that your experience exceeds his, Kakashi, but his prowess with the Sharingan and its Mangekyo form is almost unmatched. He can put me under a genjutsu with those troublesome eyes of his and I'll be done for. So you plan to take him out first? Kakashi spoke in a serious tone. Shisui was in grave danger. If he didn't free him in time, then it just might be the end for Shisui Uchiha. Remember, Zabuza, you bought this on yourself, Kakashi said while revealing his Sharingan. And then the duo began fighting. You were too ignorant, Zabuza. Even I have some degree of efficiency in the Sharingan genjutsu areas. As Kakashi was sticking near Shisui, dodging the occasional hail of incoming weapons, Zabuza struck, revealing to Kakashi that he was now fighting with his eyes closed, making the Sharingan's genjutsu useless. You seem surprised, Kakashi. It is, after all, my speciality to kill people based purely on sound, Zabuza revealed as he ducked under a kunai thrust from Kakashi and swung his blade in an attempt to rob him off his legs. Kakashi was overwhelmed. First of all, the mist was proving too much for the Jonin to handle as he lost his advantage of Sharingan. Secondly, Zabuza was not fighting with his eyes open, so the brief moments for which he was visible, Kakashi's genjutsu arsenal was proving to be useless. And thirdly, not only did he have to protect himself, but Shisui as well from the attacks. As for the water prison holder, Zabuza had resorted to using a clone for that purpose, stationed some distance apart. Nothing proved to be useful right now. Just as he was distracted by a sound of muffled bubbles bursting from the water prison, possibly due to Shisui starting to lose his breath, Zabuza attempted to drive his blade straight through the heart of the said prisoner. But this attempt was thwarted by Kakashi, who blocked it with the metal plating at the back of his glove. Though Kakashi had used lightning chakra to enhance it, the water chakra-laced neck cleaver was too strong and it broke under pressure. Kakashi, having been Sokka's fall and saving Shisui's life, was blown back, and another barrage of those hidden shurikens attacked him. It was getting very annoying very quickly. Zabuza's voice came from everywhere again. So is that all the famed copycat can do? He mocked. Suddenly, he was attacked by a number of kunais, attached with wires. He jumped over them and was now attacked by Kakashi. This confused him. How did you find me? Zabuza asked. I didn't, Kakashi replied, and suddenly dissipated into lightning, shocking Zabuza. Literally. Revealing that it was a clone, the real Kakashi ran towards the water prison and was just about to free Shisui when a water dragon erupted from it and blew Kakashi away. Not so fast a charge, Zabuza said from a little distance away. Kakashi grunted, extremely annoyed. Flashback end. Looks like you two got cocky, Naruto remarked, but how do we get him before he drowns Shisui? Sasuke asked, worried about his brother. At that moment, a greenish glow appeared from the prison which held Shisui and the water began to shake. All those present felt the giant aura emanating from that sphere. Seems like Shisui was bored, Kakashi remarked, followed by the glow getting stronger and the ground shaking slightly, and he decided to join the fight. Kakashi finished, surprising everyone. Zabuza's, and practically everyone's, except Kakashi, for that matter, eyes widened at what they saw. When the glow subsided, the prison broke, and Shisui was safe, but inside a giant. Chapter 9. When the prison broke, Shisui was free, but he was inside a giant. Susanoo, Shisui shouted. Everyone except for Kakashi was shocked. It was a green ethereal warrior, more like its upper half anyways. It had blade-like appendages on its shoulders, the side of his face, and along its arms. Its right arm wielded a drill which was coated by fire. It had a pair of glowing eyes along with a pair of extended ears. All of which can be squeezed down into 2 words. Power and fear. You should be proud of yourself, Zabuza. Shisui spoke to the horror-stricken Zabuza. Out of those whom I have fought, only Itachi and Kakashi have pushed me so far as to use this. Sorry for not getting you out of there sooner. This mist was a hell of a problem. No sooner the words left Kakashi's mouth, the green Susanoo moved one of his arms with a huge amount of force which created an equally large force of wind that blew the mist away. Not that Naruto hadn't tried one of his wind jutsus, but Zabuza just kept pulling it back up. So it was no use apologizing now. When we get back, the treat is on you for the whole month, Shisui said to Kakashi, who just nodded. Now to finish up with you. Shisui spoke as the green mammoth began to move towards the swordsman. With a swing from the sword of the ethereal warrior, the ground beneath Zabuza cracked. The said man barely escaping on time. Just as soon as Zabuza landed, he was met with another strike. This one couldn't be blocked. And hence, the executioner's blade was sacrificed, with the latter breaking in half on contact, but was able to provide enough time for Zabuza to escape. Zabuza jumped away, though he was shaking. What the hell? Naruto and Sasuke thought together, breaking out of the Susanoo-induced stupor. This, Shisui spoke with a sagely voice, is the strongest ability granted to a Mangekyo Sharingan user. Surrender to the might of the Susanoo. Zabuza grunted in defiance. Don't you think that it is a bit of an, for the lack of a better word, overkill? Huh? Besides, I personally don't think that it's worth the damage. Kakashi spoke from behind him, leisurely. Shisui grunted too. But it had to be done, before he became much of a threat to the team. Wait, Kakashi-sensei, what damage? And please do tell everything you know about that sweet technique that Shisui-sensei is using right now. Sasuke spoke, as he was mentally registering all of this to rub it in Naruto's face later on. Kakashi looked like he might as well be reading a book. Since you have seen it already, you might as well know about it. He literally turned from the battle and began to explain the theory behind Susanoo to the kids. He must have some serious trust in that ability to do so. Listen well, Susanoo is a gigantic, humanoid being made of the user's chakra. Thought surrounds them and fights on their behalf, as I'm sure you can see for yourself right now. It is the strongest ability available to those who have the Mangekyo Sharingan, though it is said to be rare to achieve. In order to use this ability, the wielder must have awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan in both eyes. Kakashi finished while pointing towards his left eye. At the nod from both the pre-genins, he continued, when activated, Susanoo forms around the user and becomes an extension of their will, acting and attacking on their behalf. By default, Susanoo is anchored to its user and they to it, simply meaning that it will move around with the user. This connection allows Susanoo to shield against physical attacks, Kakashi said. Stars were coming out of Sasuke's eyes, and he was drooling. Naruto was literally steaming with jealousy. Shisui was chasing a screaming Zabuza. Kakashi sought to steal some more fun from the duo and continued, although Susanoo is quite effective as a defense, it is able to distinguish in what it blocks. For example, the user can still perform jutsu while within the Susanoo and the attacks will pass through it without complications. Others can be brought within Susanoo with the user's permission, and users can likewise choose to leave its protective envelope. Naruto's face was priceless. You could have made a pack of instant ramen with the amount of heat generated by him within a few seconds. Sasuke looked like his ego just got boosted by 10k. I should probably bring Sasuke back to ground before he goes beyond the limit, thought Kakashi, and hence continued, Susanoo is also only able to defend against physical attacks, so they are still vulnerable to visual or auditory attacks. So long as it is active, Susanoo draws on the user's chakra in large amounts. This looked like it might have worked. Don't look at me like that, whisker face. I can up my chakra stores for that. Sasuke defended to a now wiggly-eyed Naruto. Okay. It didn't work as planned. Some additional ego demolition was required. You know, Shisui once described the sensation of using Susanoo to me. It was as if he was feeling pain in every cell in his body, which only increases over time and at higher developmental stages. Kakashi spoke. Sasuke got goosebumps. Kakashi continued, also, being a Mangekyo Sharingan-based ability, it also places a strain on the user's eyes the more it is used. So you can't just sleep with your Susanoo on. Even if you have godly reserves. Ooh, this worked. You know that you can't fight me blinded. Ha 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 ha. Naruto was rubbing it in Sasuke's face now, the latter looking like he was deprived of his birthright. But they got over it soon. Sensei? Naruto asked. Yup. Kakashi replied. Didn't you say something about pain and eye strain on using the Susanoo? Naruto asked. Yes, I did. How about it? You both go check on him, Kakashi replied, pointing towards the direction where the head of the Susanoo could be seen, while I keep our friend Haku some company over here. He offered, though this seemed like a bizarre idea, sending 2 kids after an A-class missing nin while the A-rank jonin just chilled here with Haku, pun intended. It was actually Shisui's request to send them after him while he wore down Zabuza a bit. If they wanted, they could have finished him alone, but the experience, as they decided, was necessary for the kids. Besides, Kakashi can intervene if needed. And so we find the duo speeding towards their would-be target. Meanwhile, just moments before Sasuke and Naruto arrived, Shisui let his Susanoo fade away and moved towards Zabuza, who was on the ground, panting. Why don't you finish up? Huh? Do you plan to torture me? To get secrets out? Zabuza had to put on his not caring about my life mask as the natural defense against interrogators. No. Shisui replied, massaging his bleeding eyes. Zabuza blinked. We have 2 students who were able to beat your Hyotan user. We wish for them to fight you. To enhance their experience and to measure just how far have they come. As you might have noticed, we were holding back in our fight against you back then. It was all just to set up this battle between you and them. 2 Konoha Academy graduates against the Demon of the Bloody Mist. How does that sound? Shisui asked. I did think there was something fishy going on when I was able to take down both of you. But what do I get in return of your offer? I want a fair deal if we're gonna play this game, Zabuza said. Doesn't leaving you alive count as a bargaining chip? Shisui mock asked, and at the blunt denial from Zabuza, he continued, well, Konoha knows all about the current condition of the mist. And I mean everything. About the insane Mizukage and all that. We, and I mean the 2 jonin currently in this area, know about your true intentions for the mist, to find a new and better Mizukage and to liberate the village. Isn't it? Zabuza was left wide-eyed. So I make you this offer, fight them, and Konoha will support you. How about it? Shisui asked, in pure business mode. Zabuza thought about it for a while and then nodded. But once established, we won't have Konoha meddling with our policies and all that stuff, Zabuza said as he got up. We want nothing more than a complete alliance with the mist in return. Shisui spoke as he got back and held his eyes again, signifying the deal to be completed and the arrival of Naruto and Sasuke. Zabuza stood up as he slipped a soldier pill underneath his bandaged mouth and applied his blood to his executioner's blade, fixing it up for battle once more. Present. Sasuke arrived holding Shisui, and Naruto threw a simple wind just to hit Zabuza to force him back. Seems like you got too full of yourself with your Susanoo active, didn't you, sensei? Sasuke asked as he placed him on a branch behind them. So now, we take charge. Naruto spoke in his leader-like voice. Ha! Don't kid yourself, brat. I took them down, I take you brats on, too, Zabuza mocked them. We'll see about that. Sasuke spoke as they both vanished. Zabuza was hard-pressed to locate them when suddenly, Sasuke impacted him with his Chokudo unsheathed. Zabuza blocked with his blade, but it was a powerful strike, so he skidded back. From behind him came Naruto's voice, wind style, vacuum wave. Sasuke jumped back a second before and Zabuza took the full force of the strike on his leg as he attempted to jump away. Naruto! Combo R0 now! Shouted Sasuke. Got you, Naruto shouted back. And Zabuza was instantly turned into a ping-pong ball. Just as soon as he heard those words, a Naruto clone burst up from the ground and held Zabuza's legs, surprising him. Naruto redirected himself in midair as he came towards Zabuza with a chakra-charged fist. Zabuza was barely able to block the strike but felt his bone crack a bit as he sailed through the air right into Sasuke's awaiting electrified Chokudo. Sasuke swung his Chokudo with both hands but Zabuza managed to block with his executioner's blade. Sasuke, being swift, kicked him back to Naruto as soon as their weapons made contact. Naruto chanted wind style, pressure damage and threw the jutsu just below the spot in the middle of the air, where Zabuza was right now, effectively sucking him down into it. Sasuke shouted at just that instant fire style, fireball just two and threw it right after Zabuza, into the tornado. The resulting explosion was extremely large. But Zabuza managed to switch with a water clone, which was made just seconds before his ambush, just in time to avoid being a pile of ash. But just as he thought he got a breather, Naruto was upon him again and started to furiously attack him with his taijutsu. Zabuza was hard-pressed to barely even block the strikes, but thanks to his superior experience and physique, he managed to parry one of his quick arms and was about to bring up his blade to hack at Naruto. But at right that instant, Sasuke's Chokudo made its way in intercepting the blade and knocked it out of its path. The Chokudo was now grabbed by Naruto as he began to leave gashes on Zabuza. But the demon parried another one of his attacks and hit him with a punch to the shoulder. Naruto staggered a bit. Right that instant Zabuza got hit with a kick to his gut by Sasuke. Just as he felt pain rush through him, he got a chance to slice at Sasuke, who was busy rebalancing himself after the kick, which he took. Naruto, never one to be left behind Sasuke in swiftness, and helped Sasuke. Just as the blade was brought up to Sasuke's shoulder length, at that instant Sasuke's chokudo landed back in its owner's hand, courtesy of Naruto, and he parried the strike and struck once again with full force, which gave Naruto the chance to charge up his fist with chakra. Zabuza, getting tired of being overpowered by the kids, decided to take Sasuke out and shifted his attention to the said boy. Big mistake. Naruto got the chance just as Zabuza blocked Sasuke's kick with one arm and was about to swing his blade with the other. The blonde jumped and knocked Zabuza with his dense chakra-charged fist, sending the swordsman flying into a tree behind him, knocking him out cold. The duo laid panting on the floor. It was exhausting to KO a missing nin within a span of 60 seconds. Shisui started clapping. Kakashi joined them soon, followed by a limping Haku whose injuries had been aided by Kakashi. What the hell is going on? Sasuke asked, still panting. I would love an answer to that too. Shisui-sensei was damaged badly and Haku was supposed to be a bad guy. So why he is all chill with you guys? Pun totally intended. Naruto asked. Let's bring you guys up to speed, Kakashi said, and explained all the strategy by Konoha and the test which was implemented during their fight with Zabuza. Let's just say that if Naruto and Sasuke weren't too sore with the continuous fighting, they would have given both the Jonins an earful on team dynamics and trust within a unit. Thankfully for the Jonins, before the duo could conjure the strength to get up and act on their thoughts, Gato was seen arriving at the scene along with his army. And when he saw the commotion with his hired assassin laying on the ground, he had woken up sometime between the explanation. He just exploded with anger and insulted Haku, Zabuza, the kids, and all ninjas in general. Needless to say that his army was slaughtered and Gato was forced to give up the locations of his fortunes and his demise due to head loss, courtesy of a Haku protective Zabuza. So do you remember our deal, right? Kakashi asked just as Zabuza and Haku were about to depart. Yes, I do, Zabuza spoke. However, I hope that Leaf will also hold up their end of the bargain. Kakashi nodded. Then Zabuza spoke, turning to the two academy graduates. And I will look forward to seeing you both in action someday, while fighting beside me. Trust me, I've had enough of you guys, he joked. Sasuke slightly blushed and Naruto gave his big smile in return. Haku didn't say anything in return and just reminded them of the fact that true strength comes from the will to protect someone, something which the kids took by heart. Finally, they bid their farewell and Zabuza and his apprentice left, aiming to gather support for their coup. And our team from Konoha departed towards Tazuna's house, tired as hell. They even received their clones as memories which showed them of the little run-in they had with a group of Gato-acquired samurais. It was easy as hell to beat them. But now they barely had the strength to walk up to that place. Chapter 10. They even received their clones as memories which showed them of the little run-in they had with a group of Gato-acquired samurais. It was easy as hell to beat them. But now they barely had the strength to walk up to that place. Surprisingly enough, it took them nothing more than the better part of half an hour to reach their desired place, Tazuna's home. It was a moderate place, one-storied house, near woods, fresh air, and most of all food. Naruto spoke. I smell food. Sasuke, come on. The blonde spoke while starting to gain speed, convincing the Uchiha to catch up to him in the name of food. Something that they severely needed. The door was knocked only twice, yet Sasuke was out of patience and decided to knock it down using his remaining strength. Consequences be damned. I'm starving, thought Sasuke as he was about to give it a powerful push. But, as luck would have it, before the Raven Head had any chance to apply force, the door opened. And it opened, revealing a brown-haired beauty. She looked to be in her late 20s or early 30s and had a great figure. It wouldn't be surprising to know that she was complimented several times by the villagers, including perverts. Rather, saying mostly by the perverts would be more specific. Therefore she had developed a habit of utterly flattening heads by using her pan that she carried with her at an unidentified place. Unfortunately, poor Sasuke didn't know those details, and his hands landed directly on the breast portion of the said female. Since the woman was a bit behind than the location of his intended target, there was hardly any force behind his hands. Due to the same factor, he almost tripped and ended up grabbing the breast place for balance. The woman stopped dead in her way of greeting the guests when she suddenly adopted a neutral face. For those familiar with Tsunami, her face perfectly represented the calm before a storm about to arrive in the form of a vicious beating to a certain Raven Head. Sasuke for his part was confused. At first he didn't know what the hell was wrong with their teachers, what with the so-called test during a mission against Zabuza of all people. Then they had to travel a shit lot of a distance, actually being just 2 miles, in their tired and starved state. When they finally reached Tazuna's house, they smelled food but no one was answering the damn door. And when he tried to kick down the door seemed to move on its own and turn surprisingly soft and curvy, if you know what I mean. He didn't get all of that, neither was he able to comprehend the spontaneous cases of severe pain originating in different places of his body which, as he deduced, were being caused by an unseen force as everything turned black just after the first hit to his face. Just as he had managed to balance himself with the surprisingly soft doorknob. He could faintly make out the sounds of Naruto's voice screaming at someone to stop. And it wasn't his fault and let me explain. And then some sounds of the said blonde screaming in agony from probably being assaulted by the same person. He woke up several hours later. Meanwhile, Naruto managed to successfully calm down an enraged tsunami, as introduced by Tazuna, who was under the impression that Sasuke was a foo and #ing pervert. As colorfully evident from her descriptions of the Uchiha. Kakashi and Shisui made a mental note to teach the students about women and how to deal with them. Meanwhile Tsunami greeted the other members with relative hospitality and was about to serve the dinner. Sasuke decided to join them at about that time after spending his share in the dream world and had received an apology from Tsunami afterwards. Though the Uchiha always kept extremely alert after that incident whenever Tsunami was within a 10-meter range. The dinner was a quiet affair and Kakashi and Shisui were discussing with Naruto and a still sleepy Sasuke about their new training regiment. Sometime in between, Inari burst in trying his utmost to discourage any attempts at stopping Gato and his army. The poor boy left the area embarrassed and blushing afterwards, knowing the fact that these little children and the two idiots who cannot defeat Gato had in fact dispatched the said man and were going to make a raid at his office the day after tomorrow. Though they didn't know, Naruto and Sasuke had gotten their first official fanboy after this. Though Inari held more respect for Naruto than Sasuke after seeing him for the first time, that too looking a lot like a man with a bun growing out the duck butt hairs of his. That kind of a first impression did not avail much respect points. After dinner, the Jonins shared a room whereas Naruto and Sasuke did the same. The next day, Tazuna's house could pass for a regular house, if not for the fact that it had currently 4 ninjas residing in it. And hilarious stuff seemed to be happening with those residing ninjas. Early in the morning, at about 4, a messenger bird came in with a letter having Shisui's name written in italic format on it. The letter was encased in a pink envelope with hearts printed all over it. To make the contents any more obvious, it smelled really nice. In a feminine way of course. Even the hawk delivering it seemed to be recently recruited as it was a noisy one. It arrived making loud noises and began to continuously tap on the window of Shisui's and Kakashi's shared bedroom. The said noise being enough to wake all the residing ninjas of the place. No sooner than the bird left the house, Shisui was assaulted by Naruto and Sasuke and lost his letter. Upon further investigation, it was revealed that our extremely innocent, true to God, and the ever-philosophizing Shisui, was in fact a not-so-decent man. The letter was read by the small circle that was formed by Shisui sitting up against the wall and Kakashi, Naruto and Sasuke flanking him in order to prevent his escape. And needless to say, it was a letter rated somewhere in the M category that would have made Jiraiya proud. Poor Shisui wouldn't live to hear the end of it. In my own defense Shisui spoke as he was painfully aware of the astonished/disgraceful/cheeky eyes on him depending if you were speaking of Naruto or Sasuke or Kakashi. I was on an undercover mission at that time and she was supposed to be my tour guide. He spoke trying to get those prying eyes off of him. Yet you couldn't keep your hands to yourself during your time spent there. Kakashi spoke in a smartass tone. I'm proud of you. In fact, would you like to read some of the novels that I carry? As inspirational material for your future encounters of course. Sasuke, and by extension Naruto, took every opportunity to make him realize just how deep a shit that messenger bird had gotten him into. Opportunity 1. So what do you think Kakashi, should we make them do some strength training today? Shisui asked when they went out after the whole letter fiasco. Was all the response he got from the Jonin. Okay great Shisui sulkingly spoke after witnessing a severe lack of enthusiasm. Listen up. Get started with crunches. The most basic and one of the most effective ways to build your abs like mine. He spoke in a rather uncharacteristic sense and flashed them with his abs. Oh well. Sasuke purposefully drawled out. Those look wonderful. Naruto caught on. No wonder that lady was talking about her tongue on your biscuits. Sasuke left the sentence incomplete. Oh. Kinky. Kakashi winked towards Shisui. He flushed pink. Opportunity 2. Would you pass that salt Sasuke? Kakashi said as he was handed the dispenser by Sasuke, who couldn't seem to be able to look at his own cereal that he got for breakfast. What's wrong with you Sasuke? Did a fly jump into your milk? Tsunami asked looking concerned at the boy who actively avoided his food for some reason. No. Tsunami-san. It's nothing. I just don't seem to be in the mood for milk and cereal right now. Sasuke cryptically spoke. And why is that? Shisui spoke. not aware what he was getting himself into. Sasuke glared at him. "Oh come on. You can tell me," Naruto said. He hesitated a bit but eventually replied, but in a lower than usual voice, "It's just that, after reading that letter in the morning, I can't look at milk in the same way again. I never thought milk for the pussy could imply a hell lot more. And for someone to actually sit in a filled saucer and say meow." He zoned out, looking green. Naruto, who just had taken a mouthful of the cereal, suddenly went to throw up. Shisui looked like a gaping fish which had glowing red cheeks. "Oh. Kinky." Kakashi winked towards Shisui. Appert Unity 3. "Alright, now we are going to take your chakra control and endurance to the maximum by this exercise." Shisui spoke as he demonstrated them by walking up to a tree and climbing it via chakra usage and hanged by his legs from one of the branches. "You have to keep this position till dinner. And while you're at it, practice your katas. And..." Shisui paused to try to think of anything more difficult to get revenge on their actions since the morning. "Yup, you have to hang those huge rocks from your shoulders via chakra threads. That should be one of the most toughest chakra control exercises to exist." Shisui marveled at his revenge. The duo however did not take this well. "So, as payback embarrassment, well, the weights and upside down hanging separately would be fine. But Naruto, you go for it." "I can't speak, it's just so embarrassing." Sasuke spoke. Naruto took his cue. What he meant was, "We would love to do them separately, but when you combine them, hanging upside down from a branch while lifting something, just reminds me of certain adventures of yours that you performed with that tour guide. The one when you both were in a forest, hanging upside down while holding her and doing some unmentionable things while being void of clothes for hours on end nonetheless." Naruto finished his wisecrack. "Oh. Kinky." Kakashi winked again. Shisui just flushed and sighed. Appert Unity 4. The duo, after doing that exercise for about 2 hours, decided that it was enough for one day. "We want to do something else." Naruto spoke to Kakashi, who was reading his novel while purposefully reading out loud certain scenes as Shisui was trying his best to keep his nosebleeds in check. The kids obviously weren't near enough to hear that. "Well, since you both seem to have grown bored of it, why don't you study these scrolls? It never hurts to have the knowledge." Kakashi spoke, focusing on the knowledge part. Shisui decided that he needed some clearing of mind and decided on giving advices. "I agree and think that you should read up on all the different jutsus. Having versatility is extremely helpful, especially if your mission requires you to do those things." Shisui spoke whilst glancing Kakashi to get his point across. "Yeah, sure." The kid spoke. Kakashi had his defenders. "Versatility coming from you? Sasuke, we've got ourselves a true guru," Naruto said. "Yup. What with taking into account the fact that the tour guide literally forgot how many times she had to change her position within a week that you spent with her," Sasuke supplied. Through an impulse gained within that day, Shisui looked up to Kakashi and waited. "Oh. Kinky." Kakashi winked. Shisui could have rivaled Hinata well within the month if he kept the blushing up. In his utterly embarrassed state he asked the two genins. "Kakashi, I can understand. But aren't you two a little too young to be able to understand all of this?" The boys looked at each other and then back at Shisui. You see. When I read it. My mom was talking to Itachi when." The excuses. He knew he got them. The blushing teens did not tease him again, so. The one-eyed jonin spoke. "Kakashi, on the other hand, you even know how to handle kids? You are on the right path, my friend." Well, he was Shisui's senior for a reason. The next day, almost the entire village came out to give the ninjas their farewell after they came to know about the work done by them. They were celebrating Gato's death and the independence of Wave. And the credit went to these shinobi. "Thank you guys for protecting me and saving Wave. I cannot begin to express my happiness. My country, plagued for so long, is now finally free. And it's all thanks to you guys." Tazuna spoke with tears in his eyes. "Naruto ni. Sasuke ni. I wanted to apologize for my past actions. I was a fool. I shouldn't have doubted you guys." Inari spoke. Naruto gave a warm smile and ruffled his hair while Sasuke just patted him on the back. "Nothing is impossible. You have shown me that, and I will work hard to achieve my grandpa's dream. I will also make you guys proud." "That's my dream," Inari exclaimed with happiness. With that, they departed Wave, ready to go back to their lives in Konoha. As they saw the diminishing forms of the Konoha, Tazuna spoke up. "After all this, I think I have a name for the bridge." The villagers asked, curious. He spoke the name with immense pride as he officially inaugurated the bridge, the Great Konoha Bridge. "Wait. Kakashi-sensei. We forgot about the raid that we were going to do at Gato's offices." Naruto wisely reminded the whole group. "Shit. We totally forgot about that." Sasuke gave his thoughts. The two jonin smirked. "Yeah, Kind of took care of it. Kakashi replied. At the still bewildered expressions of the two pre-genins, he gave the most obvious answer you'll see. Omake. The letter. My dear Shisui-kun, I dream of you nightly. I think of you daily. Such wonderful intimacy we share, no covering up, complete vulnerability. To possess such passion and desire within, to experience such intimacy with someone, is intoxicating. We both have questioned the norm in this relationship because it exceeds all expectations and boundaries. What a joy it was to make love to each other passionately. What joy we took in discovering the pleasures of each other's bodies. It's exciting and thrilling to know that we desire each other so much. Your kisses are like the breeze whispering over my lips. Gentle, fluttering, soft. At other times, they're demanding and stormy, and always, equally passionate. I feel breathless and yet so alive. When we were in the ocean kissing, I had no qualms about slipping you inside me and letting the waves take us to the brink of ecstasy. I wanted you to pull over so I can pleasure you with my mouth, taste you, devour you. When we were in the forest, you took me upside down. Your muscular body, holding me, and just making love to me for hours on end. I want to love you like that forever. When I need to release, I want you to sense that urgency and take me, bring me to the very depths of carnal pleasure. I love knowing that I'm with a man I can pleasure myself in front of, touch myself for both my enjoyment and your visual pleasure. Like the time as my hungry body fed on the milk from the saucer and you helped lick it all into me. One-sided, both sides, it's all good. I don't care what is normal for other people, I only know that I am so connected to you, so one with you that I want to make love every day. I need it as I need air to breathe or 8 hours of sleep each day. Insatiable lust, unparalleled desire. You made me forget the times I've had to change positions as you found different ways to please me. We have so much chemistry together that normal has been redefined. Sincerely, and eagerly waiting for your vacations again, your beloved, the tour guide. Chapter 11. You'll see. Flashback. Two figures move silent into the night, jumping through the trees, and towards a big establishment present just near the shore. The mercenaries hired to guard the place indulged themselves with booze and other worldly pleasures, blissfully unaware of the impending disaster. Gato was due to arrive any hour. He had gone just a few hours ago to finish off his deal with Zabuza and that little pipsqueak that tailed him. The man never intended to keep his end of the deal. The only people he paid properly and honestly were his guards. The guards that protected him and his mansion. The ruckus came to an immediate halt as two figures emerged from the woods. A bruised Gato and one of his henchmen came strolling into the view. Gato's suit was torn in a few places and he had a few cuts along the exposed parts of his body. His henchman was even worse. He had a broken arm, quite visibly so, as it was dangling at an awkward angle. He was walking with a limp. The guards blinked once then rushed forward towards their employer to aid him. Gato-sama, what happened? Did you kill those guys? But Gato only raised a single hand making a gesture for silence. Immediately the ruckus died down. Fetch me Hayabusa. Gato spoke in a voice almost too weak to be audible. The nearest man ran inside to fetch the so-called Hayabusa. Get me to my office, he commanded again. The guards were confused but were smart enough not to question a direct command from the midget. They lifted him along with his chair and carried him to the office. Once there, a woman vaguely resembling a nurse with her outfit, came rushing in and started to apply the necessary treatment to his wounds. Then came in Hayabusa. He was a tall pale man with a lean build, wearing not too noteworthy clothes. Just a plain deep blue shirt with hakama pants. Though the interesting part is that he was from a ninja background. His father was in the Anbu forces of Kiri when he was young. But with the start of the bloodline purge and his father's subsequent demise, his family moved out of Kiri and settled in a nearby town. Though he was given ninja training at an early age, by his father no less, he was still a person with skill equivalent to Chunin level. As he was not involved in any training program per se, he was technically not a ninja. Though when in that town, he pursued studies and became a financial agent who was now working for Gato. The pale man went up to the bruised Gato and bowed. You ordered my presence, Gato-sama? Hayabusa asked. Yes, I did, Gato asked, trying to move in his seat. Those leaf scum managed to kill my entire army, those monsters. His face grew fearful with each passing word. But just before they left, they said to me something that I will not forget. Hayabusa frowned at this. If Gato attacked them, then there would be no sense in leaving him alive. And even if Gato somehow escaped them, which was highly unlikely, what could they have possibly said to make him traumatized? These aren't the effects of a genjutsu. So what could those leaf ninjas have in mind possibly? Hayabusa thought. Get all these men out first. I can see the look on your face. I will tell, but first get these lowlifes out of here. Did you not hear me the first time? Gato shouted at the men surrounding him. The said people scrambled out of the room in a hurry. The last of them have left. Now tell me, Gato-sama, what did they tell you? Hayabusa spoke calmly. I will, but open my safe. I want to check its contents, Gato said. So that's why. They must have threatened his money. The pale man caught on. He went over to the desk and pressed a few buttons. The large pillar at the end of the room creaked and opened. The code was easy to type in. Anybody close to Gato knew the code. It was the guy's birthday. The most predictable code in the world. Not that Gato was aware of that particular fact. Wait a second. Had Gato ever asked anyone to open his safe for him before? To fetch stuff from the open safe, sure, but to open the safe. A few muffled screams came from outside. Shit. Hayabusa thought. Just as he was about to turn around, he felt a kunai press up his neck. For being trained by a Nanbu, you're a pretty slow kid, Shisui spoke before the head of the surprised agent rolled on the floor. Then as he proceeded to tear off his disguise, a bloodied Kakashi shunshined at the door. All cleared up here? He asked. Yup. Did you check the outer room and stairs for any survivors? Yes, I did. Then Kakashi bumped the fallen head with his foot, causing it to roll over, showing the still surprised expression. I take it you didn't even give him a chance to understand just what did he get himself into? No. No, I didn't, he replied. Kakashi just stared at him. Don't give me that look, Shisui replied. I don't get all that dramatic entrances and theatricals that you talk about. It's no use talking to them or scaring them when all they have to do is die. I honestly don't get that magic talk that you like to give the victim. Why to give them time to plan their escape? I prefer to do things Anbu style. Quick, clean, effective. He finished making a slashing gesture with his tanto. Kakashi just shrugged. Boring. Flashback end. And then we came home. Shisui cheerfully wrapped up their adventures at the Gato mansion. Naruto and Sasuke just gave him blank looks. What? He asked, mock surprised. You mean to tell me to tell us that you didn't do anything about the money that Gato held? And what about all those goons that he had? Naruto asked. Yeah, and what about all that restoring waves economy and all that? Sasuke continued. Actually, what our little closet pervert, the two kids snickered at that, wants to say is that. Flashback. While Shisui/Gato was taken to his office, the henchman went limping to the guards' restroom escorted by two other guards. As soon as they reached the room, Kakashi proceeded to drop his henge and dispatch his two escorts. Then he stealthily exited the building, making quick work of the three guards stationed outside. Once outside, he threw an explosive kunai towards the other end of the clearing and shouted, "Ninjas," effectively succeeding at causing panic and mobilizing the guards. They took the formations as accurately described by Zabuza earlier. With all that information, it would be a shame if such an accomplished Anbu wouldn't be able to take care of them. A few minutes and a bloodbath later, Kakashi shines up to Shisui and have the so-called small talk with him, and then seals up all the bounty within scrolls and then make his way back along with the Uchiha. Back in the village, the bounty was overnightly distributed to the bank accounts of each of the villager by keeping their offsprings as well as senior citizens into account. Flashback end. And that's how we dealt with Gato and saved the day, Kakashi said, eyeing Shisui as the latter muttered something about spoil sports. The rest of the trip was made in relative silence, though tension increased exponentially as the team headed back to Konoha. Each step towards their home seemed to increase the uneasiness, the source of the uneasiness being the now progressively brooding two preteens. The two jonins quickly caught on to the mood change. When not more than 3 miles out of Konoha gates, the elders nodded and proceeded to stealthily chop the necks of their charges and knocking them out. Before leaving for the mission, Kakashi and Shisui had agreed to this course of action if the kids started to display such changes in behavior. It was an enigma really, what time out of the village can do to these kids. Inside the village walls they were burdened with expectations and sibling comparisons shoved in their face at all times. Whereas outside, they were little balls of sunshine. Well, not always, but it's a drastic improvement from their time inside the village. But even they were not to blame. Anyways, the jonins proceeded to check in the village with two bodies slumped over their shoulders. We were training them on the way here, Shisui answered Kotetsu's, one of the Eternal Gate guards, unasked question when Kakashi seemed to be in his one of the rare excuse void times. Oh. I see. Well then, off you go. Hokage-sama has been expecting you. Izumo showed them off to the Hokage tower. The jonins nodded and leapt off to the tower. You know what, Kotetsu, I wonder just what is so special about these brats? Izumo asked his partner. Dude, they are the kids of influential people and heirs to influential clans. But still. You're right, I don't think that they would be strong enough to take the place of experienced shinin on C-ranked missions. Kotetsu answered. Maybe they're just strong, Izumo supplied. Or maybe their parents are pulling the strings, Kotetsu said. All the while watching the retreating leaps of the jonin as they went to the tower. Minato patiently waited the arrival of the two jonins in his office. He had been waiting for his kid's return for a few days now. A few days earlier he had had a heated argument with Kushina on the subject of the kids. Though Kushina vehemently denied all the accusations that were made on her, but eventually it got through her thick skull. And she did the one thing she hadn't done since being married to the blonde. She broke down crying. Trying to crave up all the memories that she shared with the boy, but finding almost none. This made her cry even harder. That night Minato left Naruto at the Hyuga compound so she could avoid all that. And in contrast to the atmosphere back home, Naruto and Hinata were planning something special for the return of their beloved blonde. Chapter 12. I'm treading through the woods, covered in blood. I'm afraid. I need to escape before it finds me again. I can barely lift my feet as I take each step. The woods are dense, so each time I stumble, I reach out to the trees to stop myself from falling. My hands slamming against the coarse, unforgiving bark. My hands are red. As the trees begin to clear, I see some light. I'm anxious about where the light is coming from, but my fear of being alone is stronger, so I decide to take my chances. I make my way to the source of the light. It's an old couple with a bright lantern in hand. Its brightness burning my eyes, but I can still make out the two figures standing. One of them must have noticed me as I hear a muffled scream. The one nearest to me moves ahead and shields the other from me with his arms. He warily asks me if I'm okay and if I need help. I tell him I'm running from something, and that they should leave because it's not safe. He asks me what I'm running from. But I don't answer. It doesn't matter now, as it's too late. It has finally caught up to me. And as the familiar feeling of bloodlust consumes me, I smile. And take a step towards the couple. Now that they can see me more clearly in the light, the man, visibly more panicked than before, asks me, "Whose blood is that?" "Not mine," I reply as I lunge forwards. Sasuke woke up covered in cold sweat, breathing heavily. What the hell was that? He looked around to see that he was at home in the Uchiha compound, in his sleeping pajamas and all. Though no memory of how he got there. He looked out through the window and realized that it was about 4 to 5 in the evening. What the hell happened? I remember moving towards home and then. Nothing. Something must have happened during then. He pondered. Whilst he was busy figuring out just what was wrong with him, the door creaked open. Up so early? Sasuke bobbed his head towards the source of the voice dripping with playful sarcasm that Sasuke would recognize anywhere, sourced back to Shisui, poking his head in through the door. Expertly making his way through the room with a tray on hand, Shisui sat the tea tray on the table besides the bed and plopped down it beside Sasuke. Apparently Blondie woke up about an hour or so ago and stormed right out of his house. No idea where he went. We were hoping you would kinda help with that. Shisui spoke with a sheepish expression marking his face. Sasuke looked at him once. He had just woken up and was still trying to make sense of what was going on when suddenly Shisui waltzes in and babbles out a bunch of stuff which included Naruto. It took a complete minute of silence for his brain to process it all. And when it did, "What am I, his babysitter?" Sasuke said before laying back onto his bed, head buried in the pillow, trying to fight off an upcoming headache. When another minute of silence passed, Sasuke let out a deep muffled sigh. "Check behind the first's head." He answered the question lingering in the air. "Already did." It proved less than fruitful. Shisui gave his reply. "Not above it. Behind it." He tunneled through the ear a few days after he learned the headhunter jutsu, Sasuke said, this time his voice sounding irritated. Shisui nodded and was about to head back out when Sasuke stopped him. "Would you mind explaining what the hell did you guys do to us? And I know it's us because you said earlier that Naruto ran off after he woke up." Sasuke questioned his brother/sensei. Shisui smiled gently with a hint of mischief buried. "Don't want him to spill the beans," he said, and shined out of the room. Sasuke groaned in reply and thumped his bed. Just how did Naruto have such ungodly stamina to wake up an hour before him and running off with that severe soreness of neck that he too would have probably been facing? Just when he was about to shift positions to accommodate his neck better, his eyes fell on a piece of paper that no doubt Shisui had left behind. He reached out to the paper and grabbed it, pulling it up to reading level. It was a copy of a mission report. Curious, he began going through its contents before leaving it to float down to the floor once again. Those sly bastards were his last thoughts before he went to rest his eyes once again. The rumbling in his stomach could wait. He needed some more shut-eye before all else and try to pry on that dream some more. Meanwhile, an hour ago with Naruto, the blonde was not happy. In all honesty, he liked Wave better. Well, not completely, but it was certainly free of certain characters that he liked less here. Though he would miss Inari. The boy actually held Naruto in high regards for his own strengths and not his father's. When he woke up, he realized that it was late afternoon. He lazily shifted his eyes from the offending source of light to his other surroundings and came to the conclusion almost immediately. He was back in Konoha, and in his room. He shifted his neck a bit and found out that it was a bit sore, thus making it difficult to move. The obvious thing crossed his mind next. What the hell happened? He vaguely remembered jumping back towards Konoha with his team/family, when all went blank. The only different thing that he recognized was his sore neck, and his clothes. He too was in his pajamas. Just as he found the strength to shift and stand on his legs, the door opened and it revealed Kushina with a weary face. Now that was a surprising twist. Not once can he remember his mother coming to check up on him. Though once when he was sick, she did. Not considering the fact that so was Naruto. And they shared the same room. Naruto got these thoughts out of his head quickly and greeted his mother, fending off the dull headache. But he could see the amount of uneasiness that flowed off of her. Kushina stepped in through the door and stood there, eyeing the room curiously. A full minute passed by and Naruto's already bumped head would not take any more of this. As you can see, I have a perfectly clean room and the clothes are all folded. So I don't see why you are still standing there? He already had a hard time recovering from the apparent chop to the neck by one of his senseis and wanted to find a very good reason behind it too for their own sake. He didn't want to worry about a gloating mother right now. Kushina wanted to yell at him for this but stopped herself when she remembered that she did not possess such authority over him. She felt a pair of hands touch her back calmly and a voice was heard. Now Naruto ni, is that any way to treat mother? Naruto piped up from behind her as she too joined the room. Naruto was supposed to be at the Hyuga compound till later tonight. Enough time to try and make amends with Naruto. But she was glad nonetheless. Naruto's expression softened up immediately upon seeing the face of his sister and a welcoming smile adorned his features. So, how was the mission? She asked as she maneuvered to the side of his bed with a glass of water in her hands. Thanks, Naruto mumbled and downed the entire glass, only now realizing how thirsty he was. Kushina was shocked as she saw her son's behavior do a complete 180 when talking to Naruto. Nowhere was the expressionless indifferent mask to be found. I will tell all about it. But he cast a sideways look to Kushina. But right now mom's got some important business with me, he said, and turned completely towards Kushina. So what is it, mom? Naruto purposefully stretched out the last word. Kushina was caught off guard by this. Has the rift already grown this big? She thought guiltily. It seems Minato was right after all. Flashback. The night before. Why did you send Ruko-chan to the Hyugas? I was going to make her ramen tonight, you know, Kushina said, closing the door, irritated at her husband's sudden choice of action. They had just dropped off Naruto to the Hyuga compound and she was going to stay there till tomorrow night due to some quality time he wanted to spend with her. Minato sighed. This is one of the major reasons of that, Kushina. You spoil her too much, Minato said, looking at his wife. With his eyes slowly changing from the caring and loving husband, to those which he wore during the day. The hardened, agitated, and commanding eyes of the Hokage of the Hidden Leaf. Kushina went quiet at the unusual demeanor of her husband. The man standing in front of her was not her husband, but the Hokage, talking to one of the Jonin shinobi under his command. And he expected attention. He walked towards the table and seated himself on the farthermost chair. Kushina followed and sat herself on the opposite end of her husband. Then Minato spoke up. Tell me, Kushina, what do you know about Jonin Naruto Namikaze? Minato's face was hard as steel, immediately crushing any ideas of a joke. Kushina fidgeted but still answered, thinking that he wanted to know what Kushina assessed Naruto to be capable of. He is a Jonin like Naruto-chan. Finished Rookie of the Year along with Sasuke Uchiha Armory. Knows Wind and Earth Jutsus and is average in Fuin Jutsu. His taijutsu is subpar along with his chakra control. Kushina finished the almost embarrassing description of her son. Minato sighed. Wrong in almost every aspect, he said. Disappointment evident in his voice. Kushina was shocked. No way, she thought. He might have been wanting to hear something else, but whatever she said about him was true to the best of my knowledge. Best of your knowledge, Kushina. Minato said as if reading her mind. He continued, first and foremost, he is our son, Minato said with as much force as he could without leaking ki. Kushina was taken aback at this. That is what you've been missing all this time, Kushina. He is not also our child. He is our son. My own firstborn son. He deserves his individuality and not to be always compared. Minato's eyes glazed over a bit with this. Though I am not one to say as I myself have caused him enough turmoil due to this. Not only him, but Naruto as well. Kushina got confused at this. They have always had to grow up in my shadow, always being judged by being compared to me. But Naruto had our support due to the fact that she held the Kyuubi within herself. She was held better than him for as long as I can remember. And thus she was able to create her own identity. By now Kushina was completely focused on him and held a small amount of pride that her little Naruto-chan was faring so well. Unfortunately Naruto was not that lucky. Minato's eyes then held a darker look in them. His wife got unnerved. He was not that special from birth. Always walking in my shadow. And while we were busy helping Naruto, he looked Kushina straight into her eyes. Naruto was left alone. The mere weight of those words was enough to blow a hole through her heart. She suddenly felt hollow. Though he understood the reason, the need of our attention to his sister. What little attention he got, it never fulfilled the hole left in his heart. Always being the one to compromise, to be the one to give up his happiness. All the while loving the reason of our distraction. He never once said otherwise, never asking twice. Just persevering through it all while we turned down his every attempt to gain more knowledge and to train him. Minato stopped and let out a sigh. But you know where we went beyond the boundaries? Kushina's already broken heart braced itself for impact once more. When that need became a habit. When you started to blatantly neglect him in favor of Naruto. That was his breaking point. And for a 6-year-old boy, I'm surprised he didn't run away or stopped acknowledging us. That was the final stroke. Kushina broke down crying. Tiny sobs escaping her mouth as the tears ran across her cheeks. Even I am to blame in all this. With all the duties and all the requirements of this job. All I could do to help him grow was to not stop his advances and was able to provide him help wherever I could. Minato finally seemed to calm down a little. His elated voice now starting to observe a more gentler tone. He hadn't seen Kushina cry like that in a long time. So he went to her and held her to himself. Letting her cry out for all her eyes were worth. A few tears of his own were shed with what he was about to say next. Do you want to know what our son is capable of? He asked. Though a simple question, it came as a form of acceptance. A path for atonement of the sins that she had done to her son, and she clung to it like her life depended on it. So she nodded. Still unable to speak through her sobs. Since you and I were busy training Naruto, I thought to arrange for the best I could for him. I never stopped him from accessing our library whenever he tripped the silent seal and allowed him to take scrolls. So I cleared Kakashi's schedule. And personally talked to Guy and any other Jonin I could find to just give him tips whenever needed. And as he was my son, they agreed immediately. He chuckled a bit at that. Then he came up friends with Sasuke. I swear that kid was Kakashi reborn, with that look on his face. Even Kushina chuckled through her sobs. But he is loyal all right. They are the best of friends, loyal to each other. Just what the third vision for the village to be. And you know about those late nights and early mornings he spent, it was with Guy, Kakashi, and since Sasuke came up, even Shisui's schedule had to be cleared up. But the surprise came when Lord Third came to their aid. I didn't expect that to happen. But even that turned out to be good. Kushina was amazed at her son's endeavors. It was almost as if listening to a fairy tale. Minato went on to describe their skills and which teacher taught what. Even going as far as to reveal that he had an Anbu detail on him at all times since he started to give them the freedom of learning and respecting their privacy when he did not force Kakashi and Shisui to reveal about their strengths. But the most revealing was the one that he had mastered ceiling level 7. And was on his way to master the 8th. That night Kushina wept spontaneously and then smiled evenly. And all the night Minato was there with her. End flashback. With all that in mind, she renewed the Uzumakian spirit in herself. Hope, something one should never give up on. That hope can inspire one to do wonders. And it was the fuel which kept the will of fire burning. And with that and wiping off another stray tear from her cheek, she just shook her head and with a wide hopeful smile, she said Okari Nyasai. And then went to give a tight, heartfelt hug to the flabbergasted Naruto that seemed to express all those emotions, all that love and guilt better than words could ever do. She then said I'll prepare you some snacks and went back down to the kitchen to fix the said snacks. This in no way will atone for the things that she did, but she would make it damn well sure that it will be a start. All the while Naruto was giggling and Naruto's brain all but shut down. What was going on? Was his mother actually acting nice towards him? Naruto shook his head and leapt out of the room to clear his thoughts. Just as he was about to leave the room, Naruto slipped a small paper in the pocket of his pajama. Naruto did notice this but leapt off anyways, intent on taking some fresh air. Minato however grew worried when Kushina contacted him saying that he was not home when she came back again. And neither was Naruto, but she went back to the Hyuga compound. It took no more than 10 minutes to find Naruto after Sasuke's input. Turns out he had a small bed with a futon, table, the whole deal in there. He could live in there decently for an indefinite amount of time provided he be given a steady supply of food. Naruto was ready to pounce at whoever had to enter his personal room but stopped himself when it was just Kakashi with an odd-looking paper in hand. Now I don't know why you are in here, though it seems cozy he spoke, gesturing to the small room, but your parents are growing worried. And before you start to question the knockout, read up. It wasn't just about you preteens getting broody. He finished throwing the small paper parchment towards the blonde before using the headhunter jutsu to return to the outside world. Naruto read what was apparently the mission report. Kakashi and Shisui had almost entirely skipped the part where Sasuke and Naruto fought Zabuza. Now this had two advantages. First, they actually get to keep some of their skills and achievements hidden. Second, this will avoid the information to reach any spies in the village to avoid getting their name into a bingo book for taking down Zabuza. This was good enough in his books. Then he remembered Naruto's little letter. He prodded his pajamas for the letter and brought it up to reading level. It was written in Hinata's handwriting saying to meet them at the Yakunikikyu and ask to bring Sasuke as well. Naruto's face instantly brightened at this. The thought of meeting Hinata always made him smile. Though now he had to grab Sasuke from the Uchiha compound. So he shunshined home, changed into his regular clothes and went on to Sasuke's after sneaking into the kitchen and glomping down on 2 of the rice balls that his mother had made for him. After all, she was still his mother and he still craved for that motherly affection. Though this didn't mean he had forgiven her, but it was a step in the right direction. When he grabbed Sasuke from the Uchiha compound, he took him to the destined spot, Yakunikikyu. When the door opened, there was a sudden pop of a balloon and everyone said in unison Okari Nyasai. The duo's eyes popped out of their skulls. This party was for them as they were the first one to go on a mission from their class and almost everyone had come to this party to make friends or acquaintance with them. Naruto just sat there at the table with a glass of soda, alone. She wiped a lone tear of happiness from her eyes that threatened to spill. Her brother had finally found happiness. Or at least began to. Chapter 13. The problem with sneaking out is that your parents have no idea where to look for you, I say as I move near the child who was probably lost whilst trying to find a shortcut through the woods and onto my lands. The little fella seemed to be growing scared by the second. I move forward trying to comfort him by putting a hand on his shoulders, but he reacts violently and further withdraws. He tries to jump out but the walls are slippery. I just finished painting them. I once again try to move towards him but he screams out. Finally I've managed to stop him from screaming. He goes quiet when he sees my hands on his shoulders. The red paint I used is still fresh on them. Don't worry, it's just paint. I try to assure him. Paint doesn't smells like iron. He replied with a strong look in his eyes. The same that I'd seen on countless other people whom I've fought. That one look that sends me over the edge, a frenzy that could not be controlled by anyone but the long dead one. As my instincts take over, I pick him up like a newborn baby and speak gently into his ears. Wanna help me paint? My old paint bucket is empty. You can help me refill it, I ask as he looks over to the mutilated corpse laying there besides the unpainted wall. I laugh as I revel in his horrified screams before I pick up my blade once more. Cut it out Sasuke, it's freaking painful to my ears, Naruto shouted as he punched Sasuke in his face, which flung Sasuke off of his bed. What the hell? Sasuke nearly screamed as he winced while landing on his face. The hell's wrong with you? Me? I'm sorry, was I the one laughing like a maniac in his dream and waving a kunai at the pillow? Naruto snorted. What are you talking about? I don't sleep talk, Sasuke bluntly rejected and turned his head the other way like a good old-fashioned stuck-up, but slowly turned his head to see the blank look on his friend's face and the kunai that he always keeps under his bed in his hands. After a few seconds pass, Naruto spoke again. Yes, you're absolutely right. My bad. You don't sleep talk. Dude, you freaking talk, walk, and attempt pillow murder in your sleep all the while laughing like a maniac, Naruto said while flailing his arms around in an attempt to make the Uchiha realize his weirdness. I what? Was Sasuke's dense reply. Naruto gave up and huffed while plopping down on the bed himself and helped Sasuke up too. Forget it. But seriously bro, you got issues. Want me to ask Ino for a Yamanaka arrangement? You know that Ino would do it in a heartbeat if I said it, Naruto said as he folded his legs. No. Leave it, I'm fine. I've just been having nightmares for the past couple of days. Really scary ones too. Sasuke confessed. You having nightmares is not what I'm concerned. Since the last mission I've barely slept a day without a nightmare. Everybody has them. I bet even Sundaime-sama does. It's common. What I'm concerned with is the fact that you were laughing while you were trying to mutilate that pillow. He took a pause. But isn't that included in sleep? Sasuke tried to speak but was cut off by Naruto. All the while having your Sharingan activated, he finished, this time with a serious note. Sasuke knew better than to question those eyes. Anyways, what were you doing here exactly so early in the morning anyways? Sensei has asked us to take rest till we are assigned to A. Sasuke strode off, eyes nearly bulging their way out of his skull. Till we are assigned to a team, Naruto finished for him. As for your inquiry about my presence, I'm going to the academy and you are getting late. It's only 5 minutes till the commence of the ceremony and I seriously think nothing would hurt the pride of the Uchiha clan more than discovering that their heir isn't punctual. Saying that, Naruto jumped off the bed and out the window. You'll have to sunshine your ass even in the freaking toilet to get there on time. And with that, Naruto was off. Sasuke was shocked for a few more seconds before he finally shouted damn fifed and began to get ready. It was almost a good 6 minutes late into the ceremony when the, almost, disheveled-looking Uchiha arrived. The teacher, Iruka Umino, welcomed him saying that they were just about to begin. "Don't worry Sasuke, it wouldn't be polite if I didn't let you in. Besides the fact that even I'm late, it is your team assignment after all," Iruka said as he gestured him to their regular seat. Mildly disturbed by his teacher's so-called open and slightly nervous display, he went to the back and took his seat beside Naruto. "You are welcome," Naruto greets him. Thanks. Sasuke acknowledges his action in getting their teacher late. A few seats below Sakura, who was sitting by Ino, sighed, "It's just too strange." The blonde, who was by now used to her best friend's antics, performed her duty. "What is it now, forehead?" "It's Sasuke. Who else?" "And also Naruto. They're just so strange. They talk as if they have a mental connection of sorts. They say things that make absolutely no sense to others. All the sensible actions that he makes are nods of his head. And yet, he manages to look so cool and stays at the top." And after seeing the dangerous glint in her best friend's eyes, she quickly added, They do and they stay at the top." "Will you both be considering to leave the room before you even got your teams?" Iruka asked. "No sir," came the unified response. "Good," Iruka said before he continued well into the half-an-hour speech that he prepared for this occasion. And as planned, the teams were announced. Team 1. And our heroes tuned out. A bet was made a few days prior between them of the number that their team would be assigned. Sasuke had bet on number 5 and Naruto had put his money on number 8. It was really just a kind of a lucky draw, and then the winner would be selected by whose number was the nearest. "Wait, weren't you both worried about getting on different teams?" Kiba asked as he was asked to be the holder for the money. "Nah. We were given a privilege pass due to our tutelage and sensei's vouching for us. I don't even know what was the exam." Naruto replied as he plopped down again and propped his legs on the table. Sasuke sighed at his behavior. Naruto seemed careless on the outside, but all he did was keep people in the dark about their work. Whereas Sasuke at least played the part of behaving like he did something that was not capable of ordinary people like the ones around him. After all, an A-rank missing nin getting annihilated by 2, barely, academy kids was alpha rank bragging material. Meanwhile, Team 6 will be Namikaze Naruto, Inuzuka Kiba, and Yakumo Kurama, Iruka announced. "Yahoo!" Kiba exclaimed as he jumped up on his bench, a giant smirk on his face. "I got a team with 2 of the hottest girls of the class." All the boys gave of various degrees of collective sad sighs and a few Chris. Kiba just stood a pose while striking his thumb in a you-loose gesture. And the next second he was violently thrown back on the ground with a broken nose. Any of the boys still looking that way wisely shut up and looked elsewhere. No one wanted to be caught up in that. "That's my sister, you pervert," growled Naruto while shaking his fist as he was held back by Shikamaru and Sasuke while Kuji went to Kiba to help him up. No one knew when Naruto got up or what would have happened to Kiba's nose if he wasn't held back. "Dude, you should know better than to say those things in front of him. You know how protective he is of his sister," Kuji said as he gave Kiba his seat, which was coincidentally next to Hinata. So when he sat there, he could still feel the chills as Naruto gave him another terrifying glance. A quick "hi there" Hinata dying in his throat. Iruka's sweat dropped at their antics. He would normally shout at the class to shut them up, but not today. This might very well be their last chance to have fun. After all, people have been killed on their Fist C-rank mission. So without further dwelling into those thoughts, he completed their assignment. "And your sensei will be Hana Inuzuka." Kiba further withdrew into himself, knowing that he wouldn't be able to pull off anything in his sister's presence that she would let go easily. Naruto glanced towards her brother and gave him a reassuring nod. This served to calm him down as he was still pissed about that statement from Kiba. And the fact what he would say to Hinata while he was sitting there. As the thought of other girls in Team 6 crossed his mind, he looked over to Yakumo. She was glancing between Naruto and Kiba with a slight and gentle smile on her face. She possesses long brown hair and light brown eyes. Her hair was straight on one side, but on the other side it was in a braid. In addition, she sported a clip with 2 circular designs. For her outfit she wore a pink kimono held closed by a pink sash with 2 pockets on the front. She also wore violet baggy pants and red mesh armor underneath her kimono and legs along with sandals that were orange in color. He vaguely remembered her as some girl with a strong genjutsu-based Kake Genkai who had some problems. His dad, along with Jiraiya, had to perform some seal on her that made her well again. Not getting much chance to ponder over her, his head snapped back into position when he heard Iruka call out once again. Team 7 will be Naruto Namikaze, Sasuke Uchiha and Hinata Hyuga, and their sensei will be Kakashi Hatake. Sasuke opened his eyes at this announcement, 4 things crossing his mind at once. 1. Naruto had won the bet and now he will treat them. 2. Hinata was tomato red and Naruto had stars in his eyes, How they managed to do that after 2 years of accidental meetings on Valentine's Day, White Day as well as meeting on their respective birthdays was a mystery to him. 3. Will Sakura and himself ever be in such a relationship? 4. What will I have for lunch? As Sasuke was pondering over all that, a shitload of the female population were close to tearing off their hair in frustration. This time Iruka did have to interrupt. Shut up you brats. And everything went quiet again. Hinata suddenly felt the stare of almost the entire class. I am on team with Naruto-kun. We will get so much alone time. Will he train me? And everybody is looking at me. Oh my god, I can't take it. Squeal and alas. Hinata fainted. Kiba, on the other hand, was faced with Naruto, who was here to claim the seat beside her and to ask for the money for the bet. Sasuke shortly behind him. Alas. He handed over the money and started foaming at the mouth. His limp body was carried over to another seat where Akamaru had been sitting since before Kiba had been hit. You enjoy teasing him, don't you? Sasuke asked as he took a seat near them. Hinata was still unconscious as Naruto just stared at her sleeping face and then nodded. You know that if she wakes up right now and sees you looking at her like that, she might just hit a coma? Hiashi will call for your head if that happens. Naruto looked up to his friend with an annoyed expression. Teammate will be Sakura Haruno. This attracted Sasuke's ears. Shino Aburame and Honda Saburo and your sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi Iruka finished. The Saburo were a small family of samurais recently immigrated from the Land of Iron. Sasuke recalled meeting Honda for the first time when he and Naruto went to the Hokage Tower to turn in a mission report. The boy's parents were very formal and strict-looking, but the boy himself was enthusiastic and cheerful. He wore pearl-white segmented plate armor, much like the traditional samurais, which covered his back, chest, lower sides and thighs, though without their masks. He also wore heavy-plated shin guards, arm guards and belt made of the same material and had brown hair. Though they did not employ the use of ninjutsu directly, samurais were ridiculously skilled with swords. So much so that they have been known to have simply cut a lot of jutsus in half before it could even reach them. Naruto noticed the reaction of his friend and looked at the much Lee-like kid who jumped seats to greet each of his fellow teammates. Heads up buddy, you got some competition, Naruto warned as he saw Sakura easily mingling with the new boy. Sasuke said nothing but kept on glaring at the boy for a few more seconds. Well, at least now he won't pester me for a while on my relationship status, Naruto thought. Team 10 will be Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara and Kuuji Akimichi, with their sensei being Yui Kurenai Iruka finished. This was to be expected, came three distinct voices all at once. Naruto, Shikamaru and Ino looked at each other. Ino then smiled and waved at her crush while Shikamaru gave him a slight wave. Well, this concludes all the teams. You are to wait here while your senseis arrive. Then with a final goodbye, he left the room. After that the main characters assembled near one table including Hinata and Kiba. Well, we've got the worst, Ino says as she boinks the head of Shikamaru and Kuuji. You think you've got it bad, Ino pig? Well, look here, Sakura says as she points towards Shino and Honda. Now wait a second, don't go on judging others before you even get a chance of knowing them. Honda defended himself and Shino, as the other boy was too kind-hearted and outspoken to defend himself. Bah. Whatever. We've got the best team. Right, ladies? Kiba, now back to his old self, exclaims. Why yes we do. Came a feminine, but a bit mature voice from behind Kiba. He turned his back in dread. Hello Wonli-chan, Kiba said in solo, a voice that was barely heard. Hi there Atoto. I hope you were behaving yourself, Hana said in almost too sweet a voice. Everybody looked towards Naruto and then towards Naruto, who was about to say something but stopped. Yes, he said while giving a long look to Kiba. Yes, he was. This is my sister Naruto. I request you to take care of him. Hana-san. Naruto gave a polite bow and pulled Naruto with him too. Ouch. Let go of my hair, Naruto said as she looked a little disheveled and blushed a little when Hana looked at her. My Madge. Such respect and manners. Aren't you a sweet kid? Very well, I will honor your request. Which, by the way, went without saying because you know, she's my minion now after all. Hana replied with a playful smirk. Now where is the fourth wheel of our little cart? Oh, there you are, you little wallflower Yakumo. Come on. We've got lots of work to do, Hana said as she pulled the blushing brunette along. Naruto gave her brother a look that said I will remember this, or maybe it translated to you'll pay for this. Either way, he was sure to be screwed later on. A few seconds of idle chit-chat passed before a coughing Kurenai and a wincing Asuma entered the door. The latter was rubbing his head. Utobi. Another puff of smoke you make near me and then you'll see. Kurenai finished the thread and looked towards the Jinan. Team 10 with me and team 8 with this idiot, Kurenai announced. Geez, not a good first impression you let me make on my team, Akure-chan? Asuma said as they took their teams with them, which included a pissed off Ino and a being dragged through the floor Sakura. Well, now it's just us, Naruto said as he looked at his soon-to-be teammates. Sasuke laid his head back down on his bench and said, listen Hinata, Kakashi-sensei is not going to be here till at least 2 hours have passed, so it would be best that we rest. Hinata looked questioningly at Naruto. Well, he gets this feeling of superiority and dominance when he makes others wait for him. Not that it affects us in any way now, Naruto said. Anyo. And Naruto-kun, what should we do for the tea time being? She asked as the sounds of Sasuke's light snoring came to be heard. Don't mind him, Naruto said as he looked over to see Sasuke already asleep. He hasn't had a good night's sleep for a few days. Maybe he was right. We should just sit back and relax. He lays his head back and gestures Hinata to come sit next to him. This causes Hinata to start blushing again. Oh my god, Naruto-kun just asked me to come over and sit beside him. Even after all the times we went out together, I still don't think I can ever muster up the courage to go talk to him without constantly trying not to faint. But since Naruto-kun asked me, I have to do my best. She went over to Naruto's bench and they start to make small talk. The inner Hinata was jumping in joy the whole time. After quite some time had passed, Naruto sensed Kakashi entering the border of his sensory range and Sasuke, who was sleeping there, puffed into smoke. What happened to Sasuke-kun? Was that a bunshine? Hinata asked, too surprised to almost not stutter. Yes, he was. That sly bastard, Naruto replied as he took Hinata to the rooftop where he sensed Kakashi perched up. Sasuke met them on the rooftop. And here we thought you poor thing were trying to take a nap, Naruto makes a sarcastic comment. Oh please, I did get some rest, just not in the room. I could have suffocated in all that lovey-dovey that you both had going on in there. Sasuke replied, making an awesome comeback. The mentioned pair immediately started blushing extreme at that. Naruto was trying to form words to make a comeback, whereas Hinata had to take support from a railing to keep herself propped up. Me. Naruto-kun. Lovey-dovey. Just hearing those words together in a sentence made her mind fuzzy. Oh my, what do we have here? Love? Young and budding love? Ah, I miss being an academy student, Kakashi spoke, suddenly appearing behind Hinata. This served to be the last straw. Love? Hinata fainted dead away. Upon seeing that, Naruto's patience reached its limit. Are you two done fooling around? Look at her state. Not even the first day and she's already fainted. How do you expect her to function with us as a team? Naruto was now shouting at the two others who were trying to give him their best puppy dog eyes, or eye in case of Kakashi. After waiting for a few minutes, Hinata came to. Welcome back to the land of the living, Kakashi said. Thank you, sensei. Sorry about before. Nah. Don't worry about it. We were just messing with you, Kakashi said as he looked over to Naruto, who was sitting nearby, and Sasuke, who was walking on the railing. Now if it's not too much trouble, would you mind telling us your likes and dislikes? As for them, I already know more than I want to, he finishes with a grimace. Hinata giggled at that. Well sensei, I like flower arrangements, flower pressing, and also gentle fist training. I like my family and friends. I dislike people who bully others and those who think that they are superior to others. I want to be a strong kunoichi so that I can grow up to be the clan leader and change the Hyuga traditions to seal the rift between our families. She finished with a determined tone and a hint of pride in it. Good catch, that girl, Sasuke said from the wall behind Naruto. She has a name and you know it, Naruto replied. It was from Shisui. He dropped this paper while he was leaving for his mission just now, Sasuke said, waving a paper slip towards him. Naruto's face turned into a smile at that. Okay then. Let's meet tomorrow at training ground 7 at 7. And when I say 7, I mean 7. Kakashi gave one last look to Hinata. And don't eat up, Hinata, or you're just gonna throw up. And with that, Kakashi disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Wow, never knew that he would test her, Sasuke said. I know, and the problem is that her biggest opponent will be herself, Naruto said. Well anyways, are you busy right now, Hinata? He asked. Since me and the bastard are going for some ramen, I thought that you could join us too. So that you can get to know the bastard better. Since you're already well acquainted with the idiot, Sasuke finished for him. Hinata giggled again. This wasn't a bad team. Like her brother had made her scared about before coming to academy this morning. And with Naruto now on her team, she couldn't possibly ask for more. Not a bad team at all. Chapter 14. And with Naruto on her team, she couldn't possibly ask for more. Not a bad team at all. Scratch that. This was probably the worst matchup ever. Right now, Hinata was running from her two teammates who were hell-bent on capturing her. This was Kakashi's test. She had to survive. Survive from her two teammates. It was a war simulation, where you are the last man standing and you have to capture an enemy territory. She had to survive for 4 hours straight, until backup arrived. Being the enemy territory, The place was laced with traps. Her work was double. She had to disable the enemy traps as well as set her own in hopes to capture the enemy. Being a Byakugan holder, she had a considerable advantage over the other two. Naruto relied on his sensing and Sasuke was pretty much relying on basic hunting skills to locate her. But she was a Hyuga. She saw everything. From the tiniest of rubble shifts that she caused to the light shimmering of the trap wire ahead of her. Thus she was able to evade them. For the past hour and 30 minutes. Domino unlike herself, but Hinata cursed. My chakra reserves are getting low. I have to find a way to capture them, she thought. Though she was inexperienced, she wasn't stupid. If they managed to find her, she had no hope to survive. Those two were a lot stronger than any of the other genins she knew. Having them find her together was like summoning a lion to fight a mouse. She turned in an unlikely direction. Facing an angle about 30 degrees deviating from the path that she came, she ran. Trying to keep her chakra as hidden as possible. They were less likely to search in the place they have already gone through. Or would at least give her some time before they came retracing their steps. Jumping over a river, she sat to lay the traps. One advantage that attending history classes gave you was that you had a basic idea how to approach most situations. With those memories, she planned to face her teammates. With her Byakugan, she saw the pair go by her. Her plan had succeeded. Now to make good use of that time. An hour later, Naruto was close to pulling his hair out in frustration. Kakashi had banned clones for scouting. And he and Sasuke had almost no luck in searching for her. They had already covered the entirety of the training field along with the adjacent hills but found no trace of her. At almost the middle, her traces just stopped. Just disappearing into thin air. Sasuke was about to hold Naruto down before he summoned clones to search and begin to spread panic in the form of Hinata's kidnapped, when Naruto suddenly stopped. His ears perking up. Sasuke smiled. Seems like Hinata faltered at last. Naruto had sensed her chakra spike. They wordlessly shunshined to the location. Hinata was there. She had a horrified face. Sasuke looked around to see traps. Lots of them. So the pulse was her activating the traps, huh? He thought. Sorry Hinata-chan. But it seems like we've got you. You're gonna have to fight us. Naruto finished getting into a fighting stance. He didn't want to hurt her. But it was necessary. Hinata smiled at him. That smile unnerved Naruto. Almost vaporizing his desire to hurt her. You know what, Naruto-kun, Sasuke-kun? I'm not as weak as you think I am. I am Hyuga Hinata. A member of the Hyuga clan of the Hidden Leaf Village. But more importantly, I am a member of Team 7. The strongest Genin team. So I will not back down without a fight. And with that, Hinata settled into the famed gentle fist stance. Determination burning in her eyes. It was that moment that Kakashi decided she passed. She had strength, agility, and the ability and willingness to work with others. The only thing she was lacking in was confidence. And here was a shining example of the contrary. But he let the battle continue, just to see the outcome of her plan. This little speech and the determination in her eyes was all the signal Naruto needed to not hold back. He nodded at Sasuke and they began to mow towards her, strategically disabling all the traps that she had set up. Hinata did not like this. All her work was going down the stream with what they were about to do. So she did what she planned. She pushed the panic button, or more literally pulled the panic rope. All of the wires, the tags and the logs went about to do their work. All at once. This as such was still manageable for the duo. The surprise came with the wires. They started exploding too. Their way out was filled with wires and with them exploding in a sequence that didn't burn them off too fast nor did it let enough space to allow them to escape. After a small while the explosions finally died down. Naruto and Sasuke came about, clothes singed and a few burn marks here and there. Good enough, Sasuke said, but not enough to take us down. Hinata smiled as she dissolved into a bunch of lavender petals. Genjutsu. But since when? Naruto asked, still astonished with the fact that in the midst of all these explosions, they had overlooked such a simple detail. Sasuke reactivated his Sharingan and shattered the Genjutsu, but it was too late. Hinata was standing behind them both with a kunai in hand. So she knows the clone jutsu too. Naruto came to a few seconds later and jumped with joy that she was able to pass the test. But I don't get it. When did you apply it? Allow me to explain it to you, my little kebabs. Kakashi jumped down beside them and patted Hinata on the back. The little lady has been performing hand signs since the moment you two arrived here and activated when she pulsed her chakra while you both were being roasted. Since it was a surrounding-based mild genjutsu, your Sharingan couldn't pick it up. Kakashi finished. Hinata had a smile on her face the whole time. Naruto seemed to be proud of her. Sasuke approved and Kakashi was praising her. And with that smile, she collapsed on the ground due to tiredness. She later on woke up at her compound that evening, no memory of how she got there. Though Hisa and Hinabi were giving her winks the entire time while Neji was furious at something. She never knew that Naruto had to escape the compound before Neji jukened his ass after he bought her over whilst holding her bridal style. That was the first day that Hinata had on the team. But subsequent days weren't so good. Hinata felt like shit. Unwanted, unneeded, just present with you all the time as a part of life. That's how she felt like. The team she was on was pretty much self-sufficient. In case of attacking, Kakashi, Sasuke and Naruto were all combat specialists. In terms of raw power, they ridiculously outclassed her. In case of pursuit, their stamina was way above that any genins had the right to be. In case of medicine, they pretty much never had gotten hurt enough so as to need a proper medic ninja. And first aid was common knowledge. In case of stalling, Naruto already possessed enough chakra to produce an instant small army. Besides that, counting Kakashi, there were 2 adept Sharingan, aka Genjutsu, users. In case of scouting, Naruto turned out to be a sensory ninja and Kakashi had his dog summons. During the first week, one of the missions they had was to catch Tora. Now she had once overheard Neji giving his daily report to her father in which he mentioned Tora. Then he proceeded to shiver and spasm for a few seconds before continuing to tell the tale of the painful battle fought between 3 genins and a monster cat, spontaneously spasming between sentences. The way he described the scene created a perfect scenery in her mind. And it was horrifying. Judging by Hiyashi's bodily reactions, he seemed to have had a previous encounter with such a creature and not a good one at that. While listening, she even noticed Hiyashi stiffen up and looked, dare she say, scared. Now that was saying something, but alas. The almighty and scary cat turned tail and ran to the tower when she saw the faces of her teammates. Hinata wasn't even able to see the cat before they reached back to the Hokage's office. Though it did not seem scary, but she knew better than to judge by looks. After all, it was the cause of a lot of Neji's nightmares. They received payment for that one by just showing their faces. That was how it went for her. Almost all of the work during their missions was completed before she knew, or she hardly had to do anything. Helping push aside the table in a house while Naruto's instant army painted the roof was pretty much the most laborious task that she had to perform during their first week. Therefore, scouting and medicine were her only hope if she wanted to account to anything in this team. For doing that she would have to improve her Byakugan and begin to learn the medicinal arts. No, nada. This just won't do. I'm totally against it, Naruto said, crossing his hands and sitting down folding his legs. But it's so okay Naruto-kun. Otherwise I will feel like I'm of no use to the team. Hinata replied, worried that her crush would probably ask her to abandon her only chance at accounting to something on Team 7. They were on one of their hangouts when Naruto had finally broken through to her about her dampened mood all week long. But it's not like you want to learn medicine. I can buy that improving the Byakugan chip since you are a Hyuga, but you have never given a thought to medical arts. Naruto responded, still stubborn. But Naruto-kun, Naruto cut her off. Hey! I understand. If you want to try being a medic I won't stop you. But just make sure that it's what you want. Not for being accepted into the team. You are special. So don't go off doing something to try and gain acceptance, Naruto said as they finished their walk back to the Hyuga compound. Besides, as for your training, Kakashi-sensei wants to take you out of the for a couple of days before we go on our first C rank as a team. God knows we've had a good share of them already. Naruto finished as he remembered their most recent one with Zabuza. Kakashi-sensei wants to train me? Hinata was surprised by that fact. Kakashi was a well-known antisocial, and from what she had heard about him, the man could make a rock look like a social butterfly. So naturally, the person going out of his way to help her was a shock. Get a grip, Hinata. He's your sensei after all. Of course he would train you, Hinata reminded herself. But what about you, Naruto-kun? You and Sasuke-kun? She asked the next thing that popped into her mind. Well, Sasuke is going to leave with his father on a diplomatic mission to Suna tomorrow morning. He is expected to return within the week. Then there's the good ol' me. I am going to train with my dad. Naruto finished, rather awkwardly. Now Hinata was going to ask him about what was he going to do while he was struggling with words until the point where he said train and dad. Now since she had been meeting him for a few years, she kind of knew about some tension between him and his dad. But this was supposed to be a common occurrence, wasn't it? What was the Hokage planning to teach Naruto to make him fumble like that? Well, Kakashi-sensei will pick you up tomorrow sometime in the afternoon. He told me that he has already talked to your dad about it. So see you later, Hinata. Goodbye and be safe. Naruto spat out in a hurry and gave her a hug before jumping off onto buildings and sprinting away. Hinata was left flabbergasted. He hugged me. She went beat red and mechanically started to turn towards her compound before a slight rustling of leaves stopped her. She looked for the source and found Sasuke standing on a branch near the roadside. The raven head stood up whilst glancing off into the direction that his best friend ran off. "He is right, you know. You aren't unneeded in the team," Sasuke said in a far-off tone. "Naruto likes to slack off or be uncareful when we are doing missions. But ever since you've joined, he has become careful. He doesn't slack off. He completes the work with as much perfection and grace as he possibly could." Sasuke finished and then finally looked at the receiver of his words. "You motivate him." Hinata couldn't shift her gaze from the pinning back eyes. "You urge him to be his best. He does his best when you are around. So you see. You aren't useless." He finished and started to leave before turning and giving Hinata a scroll. Hinata caught it with practiced ease and opened it. It was from Kakashi, containing a list of items that she had to bring along with her. "That, and the timings have changed. You leave at 0400 hours sharp in the morning." He finished and shined off. Hinata just stood there, letting it all sink in. Sasuke was scary. This was the first time she had been on the receiving end of one of his stares. Though she had seen him glaring at a rowdy client once or twice, but never she had imagined how they felt. But his words reached her, bringing forth a new resolve. She will get stronger. If not for herself, then for Naruto-kun. With that, she strode into the compound to pack. Meanwhile, Naruto had been sprinting non-stop to his house since he left Hinata near her house after hugging her. He pulled open the door and shut it behind him, all the while panting, and leaned against it for a few seconds to calm himself down. When he did, he finally noticed the house. In the living room, under the bright yellow light of the bulb, was Naruto. She had her leg up in a cast and a sprain bandage going from her hand to the shoulders. Kushina peeked in from the kitchen. "Welcome home, Naruto." Minato, not far behind her, said the same but from somewhere deep in the kitchen. "I'm home," he replied in an almost too low a voice to be heard. Naruto moved her head towards him as he entered the room. "Hana-sensei is a sadist," she said as drops of tears formed near her eyes and she continued to stare at the TV. Naruto smiled as he went and sat beside her. "So little sister has started real training, it seems," he thought, but just what could she have done that made Naruto like this? "So what were you guys doing anyways?" he asked after a few seconds. Naruto was quiet. She didn't want her brother to find out that she had been slacking off in training, which ultimately earned her and her teammates a round of punishment training. So she took a sideways glance at him. Naruto caught her. Now she was in a pinch. Naruto's unwavering gaze bored holes into her face as she struggled to avoid curling up like a ball. Eventually, she spilled. "Since the first day, we have been going on missions. Not even an introduction like that Hinata of your team got. Seemed like she knew us pretty well. And we have been going on missions ever since. They seemed extremely easy. But today, she tested us." Naruto stopped a bit, looking away from her brother. "Come on. Say it already. Save both of us some time." Naruto spoke in a dismissing manner. She gulped but continued. "She discovered we've been slacking off in our training." At Naruto's dangerous stare she quickly added. "But it was not our fault really. She had us do all those missions back to back and we did not get time to train." "Sai, you shouldn't slack off in training no matter what. You know better," Naruto said, disappointment swelling in his voice. Naruto looked down dejectedly. It was her fault after all. "Well, since I've got the week off, I'm personally gonna make sure that you do not repeat that mistake again. Alright?" he finished with a chipper tone. Naruto nodded. "Wow. A little too far-sighted, aren't you, little fella?" Minato said as he came in the room, wiping sweat off of his face from cleaning all those dishes. He could have sworn someone was out to get him. At office the paperwork seemed to be reproducing in overtime, and at home the dishes in the sink seemed to be more than what he could remember buying. "What do you mean, Dad?" Naruto asked. "Well, since you are gonna be training with me for the next few days and Sandaime-sama missed his office, the training isn't just going to be for an hour or two a day. It is going to be a full-day hell house for you, son." Minato replied with an almost too big a smile on his face. Naruto was about to say something when Minato went back into the kitchen. "I still have 12 years of training to make up for." That shut Naruto up for good. He had a small smile on his face. "Looking forward to it, Dad," he replied happily. He looked back towards his sister and her cast. "Nothing to worry about. The QB will fix her up good. Since I've made you guys wait for so long, I thought of putting in a little omake." Omake. How Naruto got introduced to seals. It was one of those times that Minato had some guests come over. Therefore Kushina and Minato were attending the guests while Naruto and Naruto were in their room upstairs. Naruto climbed down from the bed and went secretly to the storeroom. Naruto on her tail. Despite of continuously telling her otherwise, she had persisted and wanted to see for herself. What was the thing that caught Naruto's eye? "But Ni-san, I just want to see it for once. I promise I won't break it. Just open it and taste it a bit." Besides, the bottle says sake, which was some fruit from Land of Springs if I'm not wrong, Naruto said, pushing her hands into a thinking pose. Naruto sighed. She was never going to listen. Might as well go along, he thought. The bottle was kept at the top shelf. The kids had to arrange for some stew to get to it. Once the bottle was in their hands, Naruto opened it and was about to down it before Naruto snatched it from her hands. "Hey! What are you doing?" Naruto almost yelled at him, the voice echoing in the small room. "What does it look like I'm doing? I will try it first, and if something happens, you will be safe and could inform Mom and Dad if something goes wrong. Okay?" Naruto nodded. This made sense. Naruto accidentally took a large gulp and then cringed up in disgust. The taste was awful. Playa. Naruto heaved. Naruto saw that and took the bottle from his hands and took a sip herself. Even she cringed. The taste really was awful. Since they were kids and had taken a fairly large gulp, their bodies couldn't handle much. A bunch of light weights. Thinking quickly, and swayingly, Naruto kept the bottle back and then Naruto kept the stools back. Afterwards they went to their room. On the way, due to the effects of the alcohol, Naruto bumped into the wall and started yelling at it. Naruto saw that and said what little choicey words he knew to the wall as well and dragged Naruto away to their room. When in room, Naruto climbed onto the bed with Naruto and snuggled up beside him. As they slept, Naruto felt like he was drawn someplace. Never before had he felt something like this, but his head was too heavy to focus. He found himself in a sewer of sorts. The sewer was huge and even had a giant jail or something like that. The bars were golden in color. For a moment he thought that he was entering the doors to heaven, but as he approached the doors, he bumped into them but they did not budge. Instead, a pair of huge red slit eyes appeared. "Bow before me, you puny mortal," roared the Kyuubi. "How did he enter my host's mindscape?" he thought. "Wow," Naruto said as he was tumbled back by the sheer force of wind. "A pair of eyes can talk." "What?" Kyuubi asked, not sure what the boy meant. "I'm sorry, Mr. Eyes, but how can you speak when you have no mouth?" Naruto asked. What? Just what was this human thinking he was doing? "I am the great Kyuubi, you mortal. The destroyer. I am the one who destroyed your village years ago. The strongest of the Bijou. I lever mountains with a swipe of my tails and caused tsunamis with a roar. Bow before my might." The Kyuubi said, a little peeved at this being. "What? So I'm in Naruto's stomach right now? That's so cool. Viet. How did I get here? Did she eat me? Hick, she did seem pretty hungry. If I turn into a ghost I will haunt her forever. You hear me, Naruto? I will haunt you forever," Naruto shouted whilst raising a fist towards the unseen ceiling. "This kid," Kyuubi thought. "He is a degenerate for all intents and purposes." While Kyuubi was thinking, Naruto wandered near to the cage and stared at the seal. He wasn't able to make out much words, but a few he recognized. The Kyuubi was pissed. "This kid dares to make a mockery out of me and comes this close, I will kill him." Then Kyuubi raised his paw. As soon as he did, it became visible to Naruto, who perceived it as a danger. He quickly uttered the word restrain and held his hand forward in an attempt to save himself when nothing seemed to happen. Several steel bars emerged from the ground and restrained the claw just as he was about to reach him. Seeing the opportunity, Naruto moved back, his vision going black. His last thoughts were just as he looked at the seal for the final time, "I gotta get me some of that shit," before he went back to his own mind. Afterwards Minato ripped almost half of their library apart trying to find a way to undo the restraints on the Kyuubi since Naruto didn't seem to be able to make even a clone again. Chapter 15. "So, tell me now," Kakashi asked as he led Hinata out of the village gates, the sun just beginning to peak near the horizon. "Just what can you do?" Hinata looked back up at him in a questioning glance. "I mean your abilities. And not just what you think you can do, what do you believe that might prove useful on the battlefield?" Kakashi said, perfectly imitating the voice he used back in his Anbu days whenever there were new recruits. Hinata immediately looked down. Hinata tried to, but couldn't reply. Her shyness kicking in. "It's alright, Hinata," Kakashi said, "we still have some time before we reach our destination. So you have time. But remember, the enemy is always stronger than you, perfectly capable of taking advantage of each and every weakness you expose. So think properly before you can answer." And with that, Kakashi buried his face into his book that he whipped out of nowhere. The blue net couldn't properly form an answer for that. Whenever she was about to say something, a doubt always crept its way onto the back of her mind. "Kaiden? No. I haven't mastered that completely yet. What if my spin goes wrong? What if I hit my teammate? Jmyukin then? But that's the most common weapon of the Hyuga. Anyone who recognizes me can develop ways to evade my actions. Ooh. I cannot think of anything," Hinata frantically thought. She even went on to ponder over several combinations. But none of them seemed perfect. There always seemed to be a flaw or two in their matchups. She looked over to Kakashi. The man didn't seem to mind the silence in the slightest, his book occupying most of his thoughts. Well, I guess I have time. It had been about 2 hours since Kakashi had put forth his question and Hinata was yet to conjure up an answer for him. It was getting annoying for the Jonin. Okay. So we've reached our destination. He motioned towards the surroundings. They had been walking straight for about 2 hours and then had abruptly stopped in the middle of nowhere. Now, give your answer. He noticed Hinata's uneasiness, then further elaborated. I mean the question, of course. What can you do? Pretty simple question if you ask me. Kakashi spoke nonchalantly, and then stood straight. Book backward belonged and eyes focused solely on the heiress. Hinata wanted to squirm. Why was she unable to answer such a simple question? She opened her mouth, but all that came out was a wimp, barely audible even to Kakashi. He bent forwards a little and turned his ear towards her, gesturing her to speak a little louder. Said T that I She gave up. Don't know. There was a silence. Is that so? His mask performing well in hiding any hint of emotions on the man's face. Well then. Come on. Training's over, Kakashi said as he sighed a little. Let's head back and give our report to the Hokage. He took a pause, telling him that it was a failure. Afterwards, we will meet next week when your team is back and we will go on a C-ranked mission. And you will be joining another team in their D ranks for that duration, Kakashi said and began to turn back. His voice grew colder by the second. Akunoichi with no will, does not deserve a place on my team, he said his final words in the most coldest of voices. And with that, he began to walk towards the village. Hinata was shocked. She had been expecting this sort of reaction. That Kakashi-sensei wouldn't find her abilities worthy and would refuse to train her. Though experiencing it was another story. The words hit her hard enough that she fell to her knees, as Kakashi started to walk back towards the village. His back towards her. Wait? Was that it? She couldn't answer one question and Kakashi-sensei's training was finished. Did that simple question held such a high value? Sadly, seems like it did. Hinata remembered a few of the classes when Iruka-sensei gave up on trying to teach them and began to teach philosophy. Ninja philosophy. A shinobi should always be confident. It in no sense means that you are cocky, but means that whenever faced with an opponent of a higher level, you should know what can you do to help in the situation and keep your teammates alive, he said. She was heartbroken. Kakashi-sensei did not acknowledge her. All the sweet talk and the common almost goofy behavior all week was not visible anywhere. Kakashi had disregarded her. He was one of the best jonin in the village. But everything, even tutelage, came at a price and Kakashi wanted to see her desire, her will to improve, to be better, to be able to hold her own in battle and to be able to proudly exclaim in the enemy's face that she will protect her comrades. That will was what Kakashi desired. But she had failed him, she could see that in his use as he spoke the last words. Then, another fearful thought came crashing into the back of her mind. What if even Naruto refused to acknowledge her now? Would she be able to handle that? What would her parents think of her? Would she be able to handle all that resentment? No. She won't be able to live with herself like that, being useless. Being nothing more than extra baggage on the team. No. She definitely won't be able to handle that, and it will all start from here. If that man walked away. So with a determination, she forced herself to stand up again and gave out the most blood-curdling cry of stoop. And Kakashi stopped. His face slightly turned towards her. Stop. Please. Kakashi had been masking his emotions ever since their departure. He wanted to see what Hinata really was all about. What was she made of? Her mettle. He wanted to see just how powerful was her will. Whether he will be able to rely on her or trust Naruto and Sasuke, or rather, any Konoha shinobi's life with her in a life-or-death situation. So far he was disappointed. The girl had no confidence at all. She could have her enemies see her strength through her fists, but only if she believed in herself first. Doubt was a good thing. But paranoia was not. He could see the pain he caused her by saying those words, but it was necessary. Necessary if he was ever going to go into battle with her as his comrade. So when he heard her scream, he stopped dead in his tracks. More out of relief and pride than shock. The girl had broken down her dam of shyness finally. With determination burning in her eyes, Hinata took a step forward. For a ninja not of Kakashi's level, this might have proved to be an unnerving sight. Kakashi-sensei, Hinata said with a steel-like edge to her voice and then bowed. Please train me. A few chokes indicated her throat beginning to close up. I know I am not perfect. Not nearly as strong as my other teammates. It was hard for her to admit, but sadly being the truth, it was easier to say. But I want to be. I want to be able to hold my ground against them. To be able to lead them should the need ever rise, she said as she finally rose her tearing lavender eyes to meet the lone black eye of her teacher. But above all that, I want to be able to protect them. And to walk by them. Hearing the normally shy Kunoichi speak so loudly and boldly was a strange but a refreshing change to Kakashi. He mentally smirked. His objective achieved. Hatching from the cocoon is one of the hardest things in life for a caterpillar. But when done, it emerges a butterfly. So looking back at her with equally serious eyes, he said, well then, Dainanahan no Hyuga Hinata, a certain amount of pride filling his voice as he said those words and took a step forwards. Let's begin our training. Hinata flushed a little at his words and the implications it had coming from his mouth, but don't expect it to be easy. Your teammates have been giving their best since they could even pronounce the word ninja. So don't expect to catch up to them so soon. I am going to drive you face first into the ground 3 times before breakfast if you want even the slightest of chance to reach them. Are you ready? The determination unmoving from her eyes, she replied, yes sir. Good. Now then, the best way to train, Kakashi said as he unsealed 2 scrolls from a bigger one and throwing them towards her is survival training. Hinata caught them and opened one immediately. These are Jutsu scrolls. I will give you 2 of them each day. They range from D rank to C ranked. Nothing major. But I expect you to be able to master them by the end of each day. Hinata nodded. The training schedule is as follows. Kakashi again took to his Anbu leader voice once again, Hinata paying rapt attention. Each day at 0400 hours sharp, we are going to begin. We will begin with an infiltration scenario. You have to grab the 2 scrolls and escape, evade me and successfully gain a distance of 2 clicks without being caught. Thereafter it is survival. You have to learn these 2 jutsu, search me out and use guerrilla warfare tactics against me for the rest of the day and force me back to our campsite using only what you know earlier and what you learned from the scrolls on that day. If you manage to successfully do that, we will have a hearty dinner. I will even tell you a bedtime story to help you sleep if you want. Kakashi finished their schedule with an eye smile. Hinata looked on in shock. This was no bullshit. The man's voice made it clear. No wonder Naruto-kun and Sasuke-kun are so strong if this training is anything to go by. Hinata thought. Then smirked. She will finally get a chance to catch up to her dreams. When do we begin, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi mimicked her smirk and then gestured towards the scroll in her hands now. And Hinata ran. By 1,200 hours, Hinata had successfully managed to evade her sensei but was tired to the point that she was dragging herself on the floor of the forest just to slump against a tree. Finally I got away. Now, let me take a look at the scrolls, she said to herself as she opened the scroll. A tiny prick that she hadn't noticed pricked her thumb, making her blood fall onto the surface of the paper. As soon as it did, the paper glazed over and writing appeared on it. Hinata looked on surprised before she began to read. Congratulations. Your primary affinity is water, the element of change. Now since this scroll was written by me and thus you probably don't have much time for reading, here's the name of the first jutsu. Water style. Water jet jutsu. Launch a spray off water at your opponent. The scroll finished with a list of hand signs. She opened the second scroll with similar instructions but with the water style. Water bullet jutsu. Hinata picked herself up, took a soldier pill and began her practice. She had a jonin to push back after all. By the end of the day, Hinata had somehow managed to push Kakashi back to the point where their camp was supposed to be located. It was on top of a hill. In the distance you could see 2 figures standing. Do you know what those are? Kakashi asked as he pointed Hinata over to the direction. Hinata looked at the said direction and squinted her eyes. It looked to be the heads of 2 people. But judging by the distance, those probably were massive statues. Not being able to discern quickly, she opted to use her Byakugan to get a cleared view. Despite being low on chakra, her curiosity got over her. When she did, her mouth flew open. That's Shadaime-sama and Madara Uchiha, Hinata exclaimed. Kakashi looked over to her. So they do teach at the academy. Now can you tell what are we looking at? Kakashi asked. The Valley of the End, came Hinata's short but accurate reply. Correct. So I assume you know the story too? Hinata nodded. Good. Because it's not just about the story. It's another symbol for the will of fire. Kakashi spoke in a sage voice, and Hinata listened to him while looking over at the statues. Madara was apparently Shadaime-sama's closest friend. But when he chose the wrong path and decided to destroy Konoha, Shadaime-sama fought him to the death. Even though they were rumored to be evenly matched, Shadaime-sama killed him. He looked back to Hinata. That is how strong the will of fire burnt within him. The desire to protect the village he called his own. That, Kakashi said, pointing to the statues, is the legacy that has been passed on to the shoulders of your generation now. Every day, just think about it and judge yourself on that basis. Do you find yourself worthy of being called an inheritor of the will of fire? Kakashi finished his small speech and plopped back into his own tent. But just before he did, he said one last thing to her. But never put the mission before the lives of your comrades, he said in a tone that spoke of unimaginable suffering. Because those who don't follow the rules are trash. But, those who abandon their comrades are even worse than trash, he finished and then closed the zip of his tent. Hinata sat there, thinking about it, and eventually fell asleep. Her training will continue tomorrow. The day before, Sasuke was stuck up like a board. Stuck up enough to even put a seasoned Uchiha to shame. Now that was saying something. Since this evening's news of their trip to Suna, the Uchiha clan leader's home was quiet. So scarily quiet that, if not for the light noises caused by the occupants' footsteps, the house could have very well passed for being haunted. The reason being Sasuke. On regular evenings, whenever the family sat together for dinner, there was usually small talk between the members. Fugaku relaying his tales of wisdom to Itachi once in a while, or just taking out some of his frustrations on anyone who didn't seem to have hit his level of expectation soon. Today was not one of those days. Since Itachi was out with Shisui on a mission, the clan had only his wife to talk to, since he never did pay much of attention to Sasuke. And since his acquaintance with the Sharingan thief, his father had grown even more distant to him. Tonight, however, Sasuke was frustrated. His father, the Fugaku Uchiha, had complimented him for the first time. It was so mind-blowingly strange that for a good 10 minutes, Sasuke had thought that he was mistaking himself for his brother. So, having no idea how to respond to that, he resorted to the one action that was an acceptable response for almost all the talk made with an Uchiha. In other words, he was stuck up. It had been well into 15 minutes since Fugaku had stopped trying to butter up his son. But there was no hint of an expression change on his face. Fugaku might as well have been talking to a brick wall. Sasuke's mother, Mikado, grew worried of her child. Though even she didn't give him much attention, she did not outright ignore him either. So seeing her son act like that was scary for her when it should have been a good thing to be praised by your own father. The reason for this sudden change in Fugaku's demeanor was Itachi. As it turns out, Itachi never wanted to lead the clan. An argument made a few days prior was when this fact was revealed. Itachi wanted to lead a simple life. As simple as an Anbu's could be. He wanted to work under the Hokage till he couldn't anymore. The man's sense of loyalty was such a shining example that Fugaku had to literally close his eyes as he asked Itachi to leave his private study. The clan elders had raised hell after that. They asked for Itachi's immediate detention, but Fugaku had to refuse, eventually confirming the fact that Itachi was indeed stronger than the clan head. This became another cause of concern as Itachi wanted to serve the Hokage's Anbu, and an Uchiha stronger than the clan head not working directly for the clan was a problem. A big problem. So the solution inevitably turned out to be Sasuke, the second son to the clan head. The boy showed promise. Promise enough that Shisui Uchiha had asked to take him under his wing. His and Kakashi's. Though Kakashi wasn't a respected character amongst the Uchihas, but his skill was nothing to scoff at. He had copied over 1,000 jutsu. A feat not a majority of the Uchiha can claim. And with his previous skill set combined with the Sharingan, he was a force to be reckoned with. Due to all these factors, and the fact that he had good relation with the Hokage's son, Sasuke was chosen to be the next heir. And now we find Fugaku out in their backyard along with Sasuke, who was summoned there by the former. Sasuke, Fugaku said as he closed his eyes. Sasuke looked towards his father. You are to be the next heir of the Uchiha. A simple statement, simple enough that it broke Sasuke's mask of indifference. A cough originating from him. What? But Nisan was Sasuke tried to ask but was cut off. Itachi has made his views clear. He wants to serve the Hokage. But he has grown under my tutelage to a point where he now surpasses even me. For Fugaku this was hard to accept. But he knew, in order to win Sasuke over, he would have to lay down everything. Play every strong card that he has. Since he was not yet announced to be the heir, we can remove him. And me and the elders have decided to name you the next heir. The documents have been readied. All that's left to do is to submit them to the Hokage. Fugaku looked over to his son, who showed no interest in becoming the heir. Father, and Sasuke vocalized his thoughts. I don't want to become the heir. For a moment, there was silence. The noise of the wind blowing, almost painfully loud to the ears, but Sasuke Fugaku tried to but was cut off. I don't want anything to do with the position of clan head, father. He spoke the last word with contempt. All it will do is hinder my growth. I don't want to end up like you, father. I want my family to stay happy. Sasuke finished with every inch 3 of coldness in his voice that he could muster. And he began to leave. Fugaku looked over to Sasuke, tears coming up in his eyes. Was he crying? Deep down Fugaku knew he had no right to ask Sasuke to help him with the way he had treated him before. But could nothing really be done to avert that fact? With a voice full of emotions, something that seemed long forgotten by the Uchiha clan head, he called out Sasuke. "Wait. Son." The word seeming new. Sasuke stopped. He had never expected to hear that word from his father. Hearing that, his steps faltered and he turned his back. I won't force you to become head. But if not for me, do it for the clan. For the clan, you must be strong. Stronger than Itachi. Or else, the name, the reputation for which our ancestors gave their lives, would be tarnished, Fugaku said and then bowed his head slightly. And I and the clan am willing to help you with whatever we can. Just don't turn your back on us. You are the Uchiha's last hope. Fugaku finished. Sasuke started walking towards his room. But before he turned the corner, he said, "Better we go to sleep. Wouldn't want to be late to Suna." "Right, Dad?" No direct wording was said, but Fugaku knew that he had convinced Sasuke. The smile on Sasuke's face as he closed the doors was the only thing out of place in his dull room. The next day, the Uchiha caravan had left for the sand village at about 8 in the morning. Sasuke, Fugaku and Mikoto were there inside the caravan. As they were moving, Sasuke noticed them changing paths. "Where are we going?" Sasuke asked. "Somewhere not on the maps." He then looked outside the carriage. "It's an old Uchiha Armory that is not on the maps. Very few people know its location. Not even your brother." This caught Sasuke's notice. "Wouldn't we be late?" he asked. "No, the armory is on a detour path and would take not more than a day's time more. There's a reason why we did not bring escorts," Fugaku replied. It took them nearly 3 hours since they picked up speed. When they stopped, they were in a giant cave. Water dripping from the ceiling. Puddles of water present everywhere. With no light coming in, and being closed for a long time, the cave had a very haunting atmosphere. They walked forward to a point where they reached a giant wall, a small Uchiha crest embedded at a corner. Fugaku walked up to it and sliced his hand with a kunai, blood dripping over the crest. It reacted and pushed itself inside. The wall began to shift, bringing up dust in the process. Fugaku walked in and launched a seal-less fireball at the roof. The fire crashed into the ceiling and lit it up, the fire spreading in the shape of the Uchiha crest. As Sasuke watched in awe, the light began to reveal towers of weapon holders. Gunbai, katana, bow, senbon. Almost any weapon that one can think of was stored there. Sasuke looked down at his chokudo. It seemed to pale in comparison to the prime condition that these weapons were kept in. "Any weapon of your choice. All laced with seals to avoid menial attacks like sharpening and cleaning, also rust-proof. Name a weapon and it is yours," Fugaku said. Mikoto walked up to Sasuke and took his chokudo. "Let me take care of that." "So you like blades, huh?" she said in an almost cowboy-like voice. "Well then," she directed him to a section just right of them. "Help yourself with one of these." Sasuke couldn't help but gape at the sheer amount and quality of blades that were stored there. He went forward, and began browsing through the displays. It was a wonderland for any weapon user. He vaguely remembered a girl at their welcome back party that had an interest in weapons. She would die of orgasm just by looking at these, he thought to himself. Whilst you are browsing, do not worry about handling these weapons. A scroll with instructions on how to use these weapons is kept behind them, Mikoto shouted from the back. Sasuke looked back at them once. Then looked back at the case which caught his eye. No wonder they said it could take up to a day. "I'm lucky that I know already which weapon I like," Sasuke thought before he pulled out the weapon of his choice. Just as he did, a voice in the back of his mind, one that he had heard speaking through him in countless nightmares, said, "I remember this." And then Sasuke collapsed. The last thing he heard was the sound of his parents frantically rushing to his side. That's the end, guys. If you enjoyed, then make sure to leave a comment. This is Chaos Shinobi signing off.